We are live. I'm laughing before we even get started. I'm reading Nick's rules. I'm like, no shout outs, requests, asking for follows or dates. Has that been an issue? I didn't know that was a thing. Oh, that was not what I was expecting to read just now. Okay, so for today, the reason that I chose this, you guys know, I've had you request me to do stuff in charcoal or carbon pencil, and I typically don't work in these mediums because they're very messy, and I'm weird. I have issues. I don't like that dry, chalky feel on my hands. Now, charcoal and carbon pencil, not nearly as bad as pastels, but still a little weird, and I don't like the mess, and so I usually avoid it. However, it is a beautiful medium. Like, the results that you get are just gorgeous. It used to be one of my primary mediums. And it's a really great one. If you are new to art, this is one of the ones that I think are easier for you to get the hang of understanding contrast, because you can go through very quickly and do more gestural things where you're focusing more on your values, on your contrast, and not focusing it too much on detail. Not that detail can't be done in charcoal. So we're going to be, microphone is on. We're going to be working in a few, and I didn't run out and buy new charcoal, so I'm not going to tell you this is all the best stuff or the stuff I've got listed in the video description what I'm using, but it's because what I had on hand that was handy. It's not, I have not bought charcoal in years. Some of this, I know this one came from a Smart Art box. So I've got the vine sticks. These are hard. Now, you'll have on your charcoals, they'll tell you if they're hard or soft. A soft charcoal, it's going to blend really nicely. It's going to be a little bit messier. It's not going to be as great for detail. The harder ones are good for detail, but they don't blend as well. They don't get as dark. So it's like when you look at your graphite pencils and they range from, let's say, 4H to 4B. Obviously, you'll have a bigger range than that. The 4H, those harder leads, they're really good for details. They're very, very light. They don't smudge as much as the softer lead. They're not going to go as dark as the softer lead. And that's very similar to how it works in graphite. So I've got these charcoal. Where do I have the other one? Oh, did I lose like the main one that I want to use today? Oh, no, here it is. I've got, and this is kind of, I'm a little bit sad because these ones are the compressed charcoal, which I really like, but these ones they're extra smooth, and that's kind of going into the same thing. Like, they're not going to smudge as well. The ones that I have that are going to smudge the best are actually going to be my carbon pencil. So I've got my carbon pencil here. This one is by Generals. And again, I'm not claiming any of these are the best of the best. It's charcoal. I've never been picky with that. But I've also got these ones, these Primo Elite Grande. This is an ultra black thick core carbon drawing pencil. Really like these. As you can see, I got them on clearance. I have a bunch of them from years ago that I never used. So that is what we're going to be using today. Now, one of the things that I will also do I not have, I'll just use this as a scratch piece of paper then. There's a few techniques that we can use to get this really nice soft blending, and I'll be showing you a few of those today. Now, I didn't draw anything out beforehand. This is pretty simple, but I figured I could use this as an opportunity because it is simple and I'm not as worried about things being precise. I'll show you how I typically will sketch things out and hoping to keep things within perspective. Let's see. Casey said, hey, I was wondering if you would be okay if I did a spin-off of your encased theme, except use animals encased in stone like statues. Here's the thing with themes. Yes, you just changed it into something new. That's awesome. You can be influenced or inspired by another artist without actually copying them. That's a cool idea. And you can't, somebody else could do the same concept, and I don't have the rights to anybody ever embedding like coral into a lion's mane. I look at it, I'm like, really? I know where you got that idea. But at the same time, like, as far as like legal issues, no, that if you make yours different, you're okay there. Yeah, go for it. Share it with me. I'd love to see it. Sergi said, well, this is peculiar. Is this the right stream? Is using charcoal and I'm confused. Yeah. I'm confused too. And I'm ready here in case it starts to freak me out too much. I've got my baby wipes, got some hand lotion to dry out my skin. I'm still making faces. Let's see. Yeah, Phil FR Art said, agree. Are you all right? Charcoal. I know. I'm not okay. Someone send help. There's something wrong. I think so I decided I had enough of not fitting into my clothes because, sitting around doing nothing during the quarantine. I sit around doing nothing anyway. I paint. But I finally started counting calories, and I think that there's now a deficiency going on in my brain, and it made me go, oh, let's do charcoal. You don't like charcoal. We should do charcoal. I blame the loss of calories. Okay. So what I'm going to do, and you can start out with drawing in charcoal, you can draw in graphite. The thing is, if I draw in graphite, I may still see my graphite lines through light areas of the charcoal. So I'm gonna stick with charcoal on drawing things out. There's a few ways we can do to get just the general idea of where we want things to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab, I'm just gonna use my carbon pencil because it's already sharp and that'll be easier. Oh, I don't have a thing for sharpening my pencils. Hold on, I'm going to need that. Where did I put that? 1 second. So what I'm going to do is, looking at my reference photo, figure out about where I want certain trees. And I don't need to sit and draw everyone in, and I don't need to draw anything in detail, but I do want to get a general idea of where I want things to start and stop. Now, my perspective, I've got an 11 by 14 inch paper. This is not exact to our reference photo, so mine's going to be a little off anyway. This is the cool thing about drawing forest, trees, flowers. You can be off and no one's going to really notice the difference. Go for close. You're okay with going for close. Okay, so I'm going to make a line here. This is about where I want the base of that tree, and I want it to come up to here, and then I'll just go ahead and connect those. Then I want it to come off from about here. Actually, I may end up widening that up a bit. And we're gonna go wider as we get down, and I can correct the shape as we go. Nothing here has to be perfect. And we've got another little guy here that I kind of started, and he comes off the page down here. So I'm going to make 2 little lines where I want the trunk to start and stop. And then I'll just go ahead and connect those. So we're pretty much playing connect the dot. We want the base of these trees to be wider so we get that view, the perspective we want here. Let's see, I decided I'm going to buy polychromos. Nice. They're a bit expensive, but I hope they're worth it. So worth it. Let's see. Charcoal is similar to pastels, right? The way they feel on the paper. Similar, but they're not, I just don't find them to be as messy. So, I mean, with the exception, of course, of pan pastels. So definitely not nearly as messy, but still messy. So this guy's gonna start here. We're gonna have him go off the edge of the page here and here. And then I just connect those lines. And the cool thing with tree trunks, we don't need them to be perfectly straight. I'm not gonna sit here with a ruler, look at our reference photo. And if you didn't already get this reference photo, while I do have it on the screen, there's my airbrush, you can pick it up. Oh, this would be cool with an airbrush too. Ooh, this would be a neat airbrush project. Maybe we'll do that. Oh, maybe I'll do this tonight for Patreon. No, I wanted to do something with pencils for Patreon this week. Soon, I think this would be a really cool Patreon one. But anyway, so where was I going with that? I got distracted. Oh, speaking of Patreon, patreon.com/Lachri. You can get this reference photo. I can't talk. It is free. I got it from Unsplash, but I've got it uploaded here so we can all easily find it. You don't have to be a member to get that, but grab that if you want to follow along. Wayne said, hi Lisa, what paper are you using? Everything that I'm using is listed in the video description, and I don't recommend or like this paper for charcoal. I mean, it works, it's okay, but it's a bit thin. It's not a paper that I'm gonna personally run out and be buying more of. And well, I actually kind of like it for colored pencil, but it's very, very thin. So would not be, you can see it moving as I go on here, wouldn't be my top choice, but it's what I had handy. So like I said, I didn't go out and get all the stuff that I would, you know, normally I'd go with a little bit more tooth for carbon pencil. And this almost looks more like a fence than a tree. So I'm going to leave this corner off, that if I'm looking correctly, that does not, that looks like something man-made. Roof of a house. I don't know what that is. So we've got that one. We'll have a few little guys in here. And now that I've got these base trees, it's really easy to kind of follow that motion of the trees going in. One here, and then we've got a messy guy here. So now we've got one in the center. We'll make him come about here. He'll come more straight down. He's not as extreme. Little one in the distance here, and we'll put another guy here and one even further in the back. So that gives me my general lines on here. See, it's already getting on my hands. Let's see. Am I going to use my fingers to blend everything? Nope. Definitely not. I will be avoiding that as much as possible. I mean, your fingers work really well for blending charcoal or pastels. I'm going to avoid it because I don't like how it feels on my hands. But it may inevitably happen, and that's where I've got my baby wipes next to me so I can not have a full-on meltdown about dry hands. There is something wrong with me. Let's see. So we've got this blocked in here. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is start building up these lighter trees, the stuff in the background. So the way that we're building up depth in this piece is by our values. Get the lighter areas light enough, get the darker areas dark enough, and having that contrast between the two. We don't want to just start drawing in all the trees all the same value, meaning they're all like the same shade of grays to black, because it'll be flat. We're not going to get the same look. I mean, it can look pretty. That doesn't mean you can't make a pretty piece, but with this one, to get the depth that we're seeing here, I want to create this soft look. And there's a few ways that I like to do that. One, and this, now if I had a bigger variety of charcoal, I would probably use more of the charcoal pencil than what I'm going to. I'm going to switch to my charcoal pencils blocks are a little bit too hard. So I'm going to use weirdly enough, my carbon pencils are softer than my charcoal, which is backwards. But I'm going to use them for getting some of these soft things in the background. What I'm going to do is take this clean piece of paper and I'm going to scribble. Look at the mess. I'm already making a mess. I'm cringing inside. No, I'm not. I'm cringing on the outside. What am I saying? I'm not hiding this. Okay, and I'm going to take, you can use any tool you want. You can use a little spongy applicator, which I don't have over here right now. I used it for taking photos and then lost it, so we won't use that. Get a Q-tip, just a simple, or cotton swab if you're not in the US. And I'm going to rub that on there, and then I can, kind of control how much is on there. Lighten it up a bit. I'm not going to push very hard, but I can start putting in now. This is even a bit on the dark side. Just kind of squiggling that around, creating the look of these bushes of the words are hard. I'm just going to keep I'm going to start creating these little clumps and clusters for the trees. So here's the thing you want to make sure you're doing when you're doing trees. Trees are not this. Look, a tree. Here's another tree. Here's a tree. It's a triangle. Like, you don't want these big solid masses. They have these little clumps and clusters that stick out, and that's what we want to achieve here. The other thing is the background does not need to be super detailed. I'll come into more detail and more definition when I move forward. Detail and definite. I'm just going to use the same word that means multiple different words that mean the same thing over. God, I can't talk today. So anyway, we'll get more detail when we get into the foreground, but these ones in the background, we're going to leave nice and soft. Let's see. Scrolling up, I missed a few questions here. TPC 13 Art said, I wake up and see Lisa using charcoal just when I thought 2020 couldn't get any weirder. That's hilarious. Faye said, what kind of paper would you suggest for charcoal? So this works for charcoal, but it's lightweight. If you can get something like this that's a heavier weight, that's ideal, or a little bit more tooth. And I can't tell you what brand because it's been so many years since I bought it. I don't even remember what the stuff was I used to get, but I always got something that was a bit thicker, like a white pastel paper, essentially. I used to use that in a cream one a lot when I did the sepia stuff, but something heavier weight. Like I said, I'm no expert on charcoal. It's been so many years. I can't tell you my favorite supplies because I don't remember what they were. They'd probably be different today anyway. But something that's a little bit heavier weight. And here's the thing with paper. What I may like may not be what you like. Get several samples or several small things and try on them and see what works best for you and your techniques. Wayne said, if you were going to create a charcoal piece for sale or commission, you wanted to use the best, what paper would you use? Same answer. I'd have to go look at them in the store. What I used to do is go and look and feel, and I never remember the names of things. So in that case, and this was like, 10 years ago was probably the last time I did something, maybe less than that, but and that was with carbon pencil, not even charcoal. But, God, it was like 15 years ago that I used to do charcoal regularly. So I would just go in and feel the paper and see what felt right. And I know that's not helpful, but this paper that I'm using here, the drawing, it works, but I'd like something with a little bit more tooth. So this is great for colored pencil and charcoal, colored pencil and graphite, but with pastels, with charcoal, with carbon pencil, I typically like something a little bit toothier, meaning it's bumpier. Dan said, I found that cotton swabs work perfectly to blend charcoal and chalk pastels. Yep, they're amazing. Shauna said, this is probably a random question, but but I know you do your own nails. Do you stamp them? And which brands do you use? I do stamp them. So my nail polish, this is actually OPI, but my nail polish that I typically use is, what work good is a big cotton ball. I'm going to fluff one of these up so that it will work better. But I typically use a brand called the Dawn Diva is the nail polish I use. And for the stamps, I use so many different brands. Messy Mansion is really good. They're in Australia. They have fast shipping too, weirdly enough. But then I order most of my stuff from Lantern and Wren. Has such a good selection of things for nail stamping. They're here in Texas. But Lantern and Wren, W-R-E-N. So they're really, really good. Just kind of start dabbing some of this on here. Get those little clumps and clusters. I'm trying to think what else. But I've got most of the stuff now I get from Lantern and Wren. I pretty much, years ago, every time I had a payday, I'm like, okay, I get to go buy 2 new nail stamps. So I've got tons of them. I've been collecting them for years. So this one's actually more kind of out with that guy. And now Lantern and Wren is my normal place besides the Don Diva for nail polish. The Don Diva nail polishes, they're a bit more expensive than OPI. It's an indie brand, but they stick so much longer. Although OPI, this one is sticking longer than usual. I can't give you any explanation on that one. Usually OPI doesn't last any, like, not generic, any commercial brand or whatever. They don't typically stick that well on me for very long. Let's see. Whoops, that just scrolled. Let's go back up. Where were we? Jennifer said, I feel your pain touching pastels and charcoal. I have to use blending tools. Excited to see what you do. I'm not alone. I like to use soft tools to blend charcoal too. And yeah, those work just fine. And I had one over here. Actually, it wasn't a soft tool. It was similar, and I don't know where I put it. I think I took it into my office because I had been taking photos of the stuff that I was using for today. Or it might be over with my paintbrushes. I don't know. So what I'm doing, I just keep dabbing it on my little scribble area so that I get this nice soft look. And it's easier to go too light than too dark, although this does erase. We can lift some of it, but only to an extent. Now, we do have trees and such that are going to be down here. I'm just going to kind of dot this, how far I plan to come, so I don't go too crazy trying to get everything blended down, because that will save me time. Where were we? Phil FR Art said, but your problem is how they feel or the mess. To me, just the sound they make gives me goosebumps. Both. I am actually bothered by both. Jason said, where are your gloves? It would be perfect for your cleanliness. I hate the feel of gloves on my hands, like hate. So yeah, that's not an option, a good option either. Paul said, I lost the painting contest, Lisa. It's such a sobering moment for me as I poured my heart and soul. The one who won painted an impressionistic style while mine's realistic. So here's the thing when you go into painting competitions, and I think this is a good lesson. Don't go in planning to win. I mean, it'd be great if you did, but it's too discouraging. And I learned this very, very early on. Not to expect to win because it will take the fun out of it and it's discouraging. And you'll look at stuff like when someone is a realist, you'll look at something that's abstract that wins, or as an abstract artist, you'll look at something that's realistic that wins, but something that you don't personally connect to. You'll look at that and be so discouraged. Like, why did they win? Why did that style go? So a few tips for you when you're entering competitions, ideally know who the judges are. Are those judges bigger fans of realism? Or are they bigger fans of abstract type stuff or impressionistic type stuff? Because why, if you went into something wanting to win, why would you choose a judge who's not into your style of art? So that's important. Look at what other people are going. And I think too that with with realism, you have to be excellent at realism to win usually. Whereas someone who does impressionism, they don't have to have as high, I guess, of a, I don't want to say skill level because they have to have an eye for balance and such. But with realism takes a bit more to get the hang of. It's just, and I'm not trying to offend anyone who likes impressionism. I think there's value in all of the styles of art. But the reality is you have to be really, really, really good at realism to pull it off well. You don't, with impressionism, with abstract, if you understand contrast and values, you can get away. You don't have to have like the most amazing technique and still create this piece that fits that style well. But first tip, make sure that the judges are judges who, if you're going to spend money, especially into a show, don't bother with judges who aren't into your style. Like we used to do that with Italian Greyhounds. Yes, they're all the same breed, but if I know a certain judge only puts up red dogs, why would I show my blue dog to them? If I know a certain judge has a thing for perfectly straight fronts and will ignore every other fault on a dog, even though everything or every other good thing on a dog, they only care about fronts. Well, if my dog stands a bit easty-westy, not the judge for her. But if a judge is looking for good movement, that's the judge I wanted for one of the dogs that would maybe excuse the fact that she was a bit too easty-westy. You know, you want to find the right judge. If you're looking to win, you got to be picky about the judges that you're going for. I think that's a big deal too. But, you know, when it's a different style, it's not something that you can be super discouraged by. You were not even close to the style. You weren't in the ballpark of the style the judge was looking for. However, sometimes a judge, it's not even the style. They're looking for something specific. Maybe they care more about contrast and they don't care much about everything else. A judge is going to have certain things that they find more value or like that they're drawn to, that draws them to a piece. Some judges, it might be the movement of a piece. Some judgment, it might be it could be the values, the contrast, it could be the design, the composition, it could be the overall balance of the piece, it could be anything. If you can kind of figure out who the judge is, what their art style looks like, is going to give you a good idea on what they're drawn to. That I think will make it easier when entering competitions. But the biggest thing is with competitions, don't go into it expecting to win. It's nothing but a disappointment. If you win, that's awesome. That is great. I'm not saying you shouldn't be proud of your wins, but it will be very discouraging if you go in expecting to win and you don't. I mean, I've done that. I remember I would have been about 23 at the time. And it was one of my first shows, and I did some new paintings for it. And I went in thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing amazing. These paintings came out so good. They're going to love them. They didn't even look twice at them. That can be discouraging. Does that mean my art isn't good? No. It means that's not what that judge was looking for. So, you know, I learned going in with the right mindset. Though one of the shows too, and you'll learn certain shows aren't even worth your time. If you've got a judge, I mean, I remember one where I'm looking at what won and I'm like, it's not that I'm saying mine should have won. I'm saying any other piece should have won. Why was that what you were drawn to? It was so badly done. It was realism that was badly done, that they must have spent 5 seconds on. I mean, it was not impressive by any stretch of the imagination. So, and I remember being discouraged, like, why do I bother? Why am I paying all of these entry fees if that's what they're going to choose? And then I realized, wait, right, why am I paying these entry fees? Why am I doing this? I'm not getting sales out of it. So when I did start getting sales, finding shows that are also selling and are prone to having more sales, those were the ones that I liked. And that's what I would recommend going more for, because, you know, at the end of the day, that really matters a lot more than a 20-cent ribbon. I mean, we all like bragging rights and we all want to win when we enter, but not everyone can. And to go into it with that many, I mean, imagine how many artists were disappointed that day. That sucks. That's not what, I don't know. I just don't think that's what art should be about. Create your vision for how you want to. And the art shows are great for getting them in front of people, but don't be discouraged or get your hopes up too much thinking you're going to win when that's not many are going to win. I mean, how many were entered? Not many are going to win in those cases. So I get where it's disappointing, but that's something, it's a good lesson for you to learn. Don't let it be that disappointed. You're disappointed because you were thinking you would win. I'm not saying you didn't deserve to, but every artist there went in thinking they were going to win. You know, it's like playing the lottery. You've got to be a bit more realistic on that so that it doesn't beat you down, so that you're not disappointed, so that you're not discouraged with entering stuff or with your art in general. Let's see. Where were we? Scrolling up, I missed a bunch of questions. Dan said, I love how your greyhound is sleeping in a normal position instead of pulling the dead cockroach pose. Oh, give him a bit. That won't last the whole 2 hours. Let's see. Sergi said, maybe Canson Me 10s would have been a more fitting service. It would, but I don't have it in white, and I didn't want to do this on blue. So yeah, it absolutely would have been. Let's see. Does the brand matter for odorless mineral spirits? Now I'm going to have charcoal on me. I use, the only two that I've used that I like, you know, that I can give any feedback on is Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits and Gamsol. Those are both really, really good, but I've not used a lot of other ones, so I can't say. Now, I have had people bring in odorless turpentine and odorless something else, and it was not a good experience. Like headaches, and it was not odorless, but like actual OMS, odorless mineral spirits. Those, the only two I've tried is Gamsol and Mona Lisa odorless, and they both seem the exact, like I really can't tell a difference between the two, if that helps. Art of Cayenne. I cannot talk. I'm not even going to bother butchering your last name. I apologize. Said, I came across this channel yesterday and fell in love instantly. I subscribed straight away and joined the Facebook group too. You're an amazing artist, Lisa. Thank you so much and welcome. Welcome to me butchering people's names. Let's see. Irritated Paintbrush said, what does Lightfast mean? Sorry for a dumb question. No, Lightfast is the term we use to, like, we have ratings. So we know how Lightfast something is. So how long will it take when exposed to light before that color starts to fade? So, and it doesn't matter if it's pencil, if it's paint, you want good Lightfast ratings. If you don't have good Lightfast ratings, then something, let's say somebody buys something from you and it could be 2 years, it could be 15 years, it could be 30 years. The certain colors, if they're not Lightfast, they're going to fade. They just kind of disappear. So you might have this beautiful pink and it ends up being pale, almost white gray. So you want to make sure that you're using Lightfast materials if you're selling your work, because you don't want a reputation for your work fading when people buy it. I actually had someone leave whenever someone leaves these comments that are just ridiculous, it's always somebody who's new to my channel, and it's like, you left one comment and that's the comment you went with. But, one person was going on about I was talking about materials and using quality materials in Lightfast. And they were saying, what was it? Something about how precious you were or something like that, because artists have been using anything for years and blah, or for, throughout history or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't respond because it's stupid, but it's like, but we have better options now. And if we're selling something, we need to be responsible. How many times have you bought a vacuum cleaner and it broke like 1 month after the warranty was up? How irritated were you? Or a TV, my Fitbit, actually my last Fitbit, I just had to get a new one because it exploded. The face fell out and I was 1 month over my warranty on that. Like, it almost exactly like a month and 2 days over my extended warranty that I had gotten through Best Buy. Won't waste my money on that again. But how many times does that happen and how irritated are you? Now, to be fair, I went out and bought another Fitbit, but I know I was rough on it. But the point is, if you feel that about different things, like this is what I spent my money on and it didn't last, how does somebody going to feel when they do that with your art? So that's why Lightfast matters. That's why it's not me being precious like the person who is commenting was saying, or that I'm being too picky. It's about me caring what somebody gives me money for. If you give me money, it better freaking last. And it's the same thing with me. If I buy art from somebody, it better freaking last. Art is expensive. Art should we have Lightfast materials today. This isn't 500 years ago. Actually, a lot of stuff from 500 years ago were Lightfast or did very well. But we're not talking about back then. We're talking about now and what we have available to us now. And it's not that expensive to have supplies. It does not cost you that much, which is a big deal if you're selling. Not that much of an investment, much more anyway than non-Lightfast stuff, to use stuff that is going to last. So yeah, there's my rant on that. Let's see. Sorry, you just reminded me of a comment I read just a bit ago. Art and Diamonds with Eskies said, have you tried Color Street nails? I found that they held up well with all of the hand washing and art supplies. I have not. Erica said, I just ordered the largest set of both Carbothello and Pitt Pastel pencils. Please don't tell me they sound like the charcoal on the paper. Do you know if they sound different on Pastel Matte? I don't know with Pastel Matte because I've never tried charcoal on Pastel Matte. I'm fairly new to Pastel Matte myself. The Carbothello, that's the one that's like not chalky. It's almost oily feeling, I think. So that would be very different. That would be closer to colored pencil, if I'm thinking of the right thing. See how I'm leaving blotches of white? That's important. Let's see. Are you going to use fixatives at the end? How do you feel about selling pastel and charcoal drawings, being that they tend to create dust? I will, and even if I sell stuff, I will sell them. People know when you get charcoal, and I would explain that to them, how to take care of it and all of that. But absolutely, I seal everything. I think that it's very important because I know a lot of people with pastels, they don't want to spray the pastel because it'll change the color. Too bad. That's the nature of that medium. Like if you're selling it, if you're just making prints, then that's one thing. But if you're selling it, that's an issue. I mean, even when you spray it, it eventually kind of turns into dust. So I am a big fan of spraying it, and I have one by Krylon here, and I'm sure there's better options. It's just what I have. So I will spray the heck out of it. And the funny thing is, when I spray it, it generally makes everything darker. You just increased my contrast without, like, you made my work look better, spray. I'm good with that. I generally want things to look darker, want to increase contrast, so I'm fine with that. I need to make another scribble. And this would be faster if I had the proper charcoal here. I thought I had more. I was surprised when I was like, wow, everything I bought was the really hard kind, so better for detail, which makes sense on why I would have bought it at the time. But not as soft as I would like for something like this. But it works. And it just kind of scribbles. Now, it's very important that I get some variation in there. See how some areas are a little darker, some are a little lighter? That's a big deal. And I can come back through and darken the centers even more, where it would be more dense. Let's see. What do you specialize in? Portraits and animals? That's what I've seen the most on your channel. Yeah, I mostly paint portraits, animals, wildlife. Marine life is one of my favorites. I really like surrealism, too. I just don't do it often enough because I spend so much time doing lessons and such. But I definitely want to get more surrealism going. I actually have an idea for one of my next paintings. I need to do something with, I think I'm going to do a sea turtle and watercolor pencils. I'm on a sea turtle kick right now. But I think I'm going to do a sea turtle and watercolor pencils for this week on Patreon. And I think for next week, I'm going to start, I have a big long canvas. I have 3 of them I've been saving from Frederick's for like the right thing. But I'm going to do a sea turtle. So it's like a cropped thing of a sea turtle and coral. And I'm just all excited about, I don't need that, about that project. So I can't wait to start that. And I wanted to start it this week, but I've done too many acrylics in a row. And so I try to mix it up a lot for Patreon because I know not everyone works in acrylic. I have some people on Patreon who only are really interested in colored pencil or graphite. So I try to keep that mixed up a bit. Ooh, a sea turtle and graphite. Maybe I'll do it that way. I don't know. What do you guys want? Those of you who are patrons, do you want, I know I want to do a sea turtle, just kind of close up of his face and part of his shell. Do you want that in graphite? Do you want that in water soluble graphite? Or do you want that in watercolor pencils? Those are kind of my options right now, but I haven't used any of those mediums in a bit. Okay. Let's see. How do you draw hair? It's only part of a portrait. It's the only part of the part I can't talk. I struggle with. I usually just scribble and blend to find shapes. How do you make it realistic? So I have a video, and I do it. I think I did it in graphite, and that one I think would be really helpful for you to see how I do hair. But just look up Lachri, draw hair in graphite. It should come up. But I've got several where I've done that and kind of broken down how I draw the hair. But it's like anything else. I break everything up into clumps and clusters. No different really than how I'm doing this. I'm just looking at the clumps and clusters of the branches and such. But you break it down when you're drawing hair. You want to break it down into tiny little sections, tiny little, like 1 little square inch, and you just copy what you see on your reference photo, and then the next square inch, copy what you see on that reference photo. But what a lot of people do when they draw hair is that they try to rush over it. They go too fast, and they just want to make a few lines and call it a day. That's fine if you're drawing cartoons, but when you're going for realism, you need to slow down. And then Fine Art Studio said, I'm also weird about my hands and textures. I can only use certain types of lotions because I can't stand that greasy lotion feel. Cringe. See, I'm the opposite. I want the greasy lotion. If it dries it out, like Body Shop, the Body Shop lotions, my mango one from Body Shop, or yeah, that's what I've got here, has that greasy, like it sticks with you. That's what I really want. My ears ringing. That's what I really like. And then I have stuff from the Bath and Body Works, which smells amazing, but it has too much alcohol in it and it dries my skin out more than I like. So that one I'm not as big of a fan of. I'm the freak who wants everything. Same thing with me and my mother-in-law are like the opposite when it comes to lip stuff. She doesn't want it to stay like sticky or gooey. I'm like, the stickier and gooier, the better, because it feels moisturized to me. So yeah, I'm weird, I know. I think more people would agree with you than, I don't know, let us know. But I'm pretty sure more people would agree with the non-greasy feel for hand lotions and stuff. Irritated Paintbrush said, you are so right about the contest. Got my heart broken so many times. Now I paint for myself only, and that is what you need to do. And the funny thing is, when you paint for you, your work comes out better. It shows in your work when you're painting for you. I mean, I like to keep in mind, like, oh, somebody would maybe criticize this aspect of it, and also that, like, I can see where if I were a judge, I would criticize this about myself. And so I'll try to improve in that. But as far as, but then even then it's, if I were the judge, what do I want to see? I think that, not what does this other person want to see? Because that almost gets into, when you're worrying too much about what that specific judge wants or what they like, it almost gets into a very similar situation as people when they ask me, what would you do, or what subject matter would sell the most? What appeals to people the most? Where are my sharpeners? It's kind of that same thing. And it's like, well, you don't paint for what you think is going to sell typically. I mean, you can do a few like that, but if you want people to really like your art, you need to be passionate about whatever it is you're doing. So like, if I drew cars, I can appreciate somebody who draws these, like Chris Dunlap, or Pinstripe Chris on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you want to follow him. He does these amazing cars. I'm not a car person. I can appreciate how freaking phenomenal they look, but it's not like if I went and painted cars, yeah, I could do it, but I'm not passionate about it, and it would show in my work. So there's no reason for me to go, oh, look, this person's selling a whole lot of car drawings. That's what I should jump into. And I feel like that's kind of the same when it comes to art competitions. If you get to where you're doing it to try to please somebody else, it shows in your work when you're doing what you're passionate about and what you are really interested in. So like when I would have new students and they would say, well, what would you recommend? Or even on the live streams, people ask all the time, what would you recommend? I'm new. What should I draw first? What are you interested in? That's what you should draw first. For someone, it might be a car. For somebody, it might be a flower. For someone, it might be a fish. It could be anything. For somebody, I mean, who knows? It could be a potato. What are you passionate about? I'm right now counting calories. I'm pretty passionate about my lack of potatoes. This calorie thing is getting old, and having to pay attention to this stuff sucks. But anyway, no, you want to, when it comes to competitions, when it comes to selling things, I think it's kind of all the same. And the funny thing is, if you start with what you're passionate about, the judges who are interested in your work, the buyers, they will follow. You just have to put your work in front of the right people. But if you try to do it in the reverse, what will impress those people? Your work it's going to show. And Masker, hey, I haven't seen you forever. I need to say, I haven't been able to catch a live stream in forever. Glad to finally be able to jump in. Loving the new house. I am. I've missed talking to you. Yes, I have. I was actually walking around earlier watering my plants thinking, I can't believe I have all these plants. I can't believe I have a yard. Like I have my own backyard. I'm just, those times where you walk around in absolute bliss of, how did this I don't deserve this. I can't believe I have a house. I never thought that would happen. But yeah, I am loving it. Thank you. Whoop, that just jumped. Where were we? Scrolling back up. Oh, I really missed a bunch. Hold on 1 second. Let's find where we were. There we go. Okay. What are your thoughts on drawing celebrities? Do you think it's bad? It's fine, but you can run into copyright issues. Like if you're selling, you're making prints, whatever. And I pulled most of them off because I used to do them on YouTube, and people would tell me you need to draw celebrities so that people can, to get more viewers. It never got more views. It never made a difference for me versus just drawing like a random cute little girl. Portraits like that most of those did better actually. So I ended up removing them so I didn't even have to worry about copyright issues. There's a few I still have up. Like Game of Thrones will encourage fan art, and so I have a few of those up still. I think I just have the Jon Snow one. But they should be grateful for anyone who wants to share any of their crap anymore. But anyway, sorry, random. I'm bitter about last season. Let's just skip over, not tell the whole story. But anyway, so you can do it just to show people you can draw somebody and have it look just like that person, but you may run into copyright issues, and that's something to just be aware of. People do it all the time and list it as fan art. You obviously would not have rights to sell or make prints of any of your fan art. That is not legal. People do it all the time, but I don't want to deal with those legal issues. So I'm definitely not going to. That photo belongs to the photographer. And a lot of people think it belongs to the celebrity. No, it generally belongs to the photographer or the studio, like if the studio took the photo. So I'm not, this is going to actually be really dark in here, so I can just kind of scribble a whole bunch in there. I don't do it anymore because I don't find it to be super beneficial. I feel like it's just not creative. It's fun to do just in look what I can do. But I feel like I lack, I don't know. It's definitely not my thing. And I've done it before, so I'm not judging anyone who does it, but I don't find it to be that helpful. And I do know a lot of artists who will like make their whole career or make their whole living as an artist off selling celebrity photos or celebrity paintings, which they don't legally have the right to, and they can get themselves into trouble for it. So I want to recommend that. But for fan art, for like if it's something for fun, I've drawn a few just for fun, and I get that. Like, well, heck, I even did the fan art of a World of Warcraft scene. So for yourself, fan art like that, fine, and it's good practice, but keep in mind you don't own copyright. And a lot of people think, well, I drew it, so I own the copyright because it's my drawing. Yeah, that's not how that works at all. Let's see, question. Artist Supply said, I agree with your view on materials. I'm always surprised how many people sell things like Copic marker drawings, even though the Copic site frequently asks questions, even says they aren't Lightfast. You know, and I wouldn't have a problem with someone selling it if they made sure that everyone knew they're not Lightfast. These will fade in a few years. The problem is most people don't do that. So that's where I have like, that's what bothers me, is the not being transparent in that, because the average buyer isn't going to know that. It's funny. It's actually a total side story. So I'm in this group. It's called Fantasy Creatures Adoption Page or something like that. It's on Facebook. And it's for people who make cute little stuffed animals, but it's like fantasy animals, like werewolf babies, or I don't know. I'm just interested. I think they're neat. They have very cool stuff. So I'm in that group, and someone shares a thing. She hired somebody for $475, $500, right around there, to make. She was looking for a specific seller who made a certain type. It was a werewolf baby, and they use like these silicone hands. They look kind of realistic. It looks like a real, like what you would think that to be. So she goes through just warning everybody her experience with this person, and the short version of the story is the seller was stringing her along for months and months and months. I'm working on it. Here's an updated photo. I don't know what that updated photo was, but that is not what she ended up creating her. So it took her months and months. She would say she's sending it out Monday. A month goes by and she's like, I never got it. Oh, well, I'm almost ready with this. I'm almost done with that. Like she really was stringing her along. Then she posted the finished thing, showed it to her. And now this girl had provided her with photos of exactly what she was looking for. It's just that the seller who used to make what she was looking for no longer makes them. And so she had posted asking in some groups if anyone does. And she contacted her, oh, I can do that. So anyway, the doll that she made her, it's not that it was bad, it's that it wasn't even close to what she asked for. It was this very primitive looking, like something that I would have expected to see on Little House on the Prairie. Like it was cute, but it was not at all what the girl had asked for and what she showed her photos of. And a couple of people in the group were like, well, why wouldn't you have looked at her other work and known she couldn't do that? No, I don't buy that. That's on the artist. I mean, yeah, you should be aware of what kind of work the person provides, but I say that's on the artist. The artist told her she could do something that she couldn't. And buyers don't get that. And it kind of comes back to Lightfast ratings and such. Buyers aren't the ones responsible for us producing quality. That's on us. It is on us to make sure they know if something is Lightfast or if it's not Lightfast, and explain to them what that means. Some people won't care. Some people are like, don't care, I still want it. That's fine. In that case, that's totally fine. But it's up to the artist to make sure that we're producing quality work and we're producing what people, in this case with a commission, that it's what that person had asked for. So I'm going to leave this. I can actually smudge those. Here goes with the fingers. I can soften those a bit down with my hands here. I'm just going to smudge a bit. And then we are going to start with some of the darker trees. This is where stuff starts looking a lot better. Let's see. Is Faber-Castell polychromos or Prismacolors? Which do you prefer? I love both of them. I used to be a Prismacolor fan. But keep in mind, I started using them back in the 90s when they were made, like they were actually decent pencils. They sold off to another company who shipped it over to a plant in Mexico, and they just cut all the corners. I'm not blaming the plant in Mexico. I'm blaming Prismacolor for having them cut all the corners. Wood casings break and split like crazy. They're warped like crazy. The lead fall, non-stop problems with Prismacolor. And half of them aren't Lightfast. So that's an issue too. So no, I got really sick of dealing with the problems with Prismacolor and switched over to polychromos and fell in love. So now, yeah, I don't use Prismacolor myself at all anymore. Now that's not to say you can't make beautiful art with Prismacolor. And I need to specify that, because I never want someone to be like, well, all I have is Prismacolor, I'm not going to bother drawing then. No, use what you have. Absolutely use what you have. They're just not my preference, and I don't like fighting with my materials when they're constantly breaking, all the problems they have. So, no, use what you like. There are plenty of artists who love nothing except Prismacolor. So that's going to be on you to figure out what you find to be best. But again, like half the colors aren't Lightfast, so that's an issue. But Figure out what you're comfortable with. Yeah, I need something softer. That's not going to blend in. We'll go with this guy. There we go. And like I said, I used to use Prismacolor exclusively because that's really all I knew that was available. But it's not my go-to. Like, I don't use them at all now. Definitely prefer the polychromos. And that's the thing. These have to be sharpened constantly. You burn up through these so fast. And oh, that's not the right sharpener. I really do wish I had a softer charcoal block. I almost wonder, and I searched through, I probably have one. I'll be looking for something else this week, and I'll come across what I wish I had. It happens all the time. Let's see. Spectrafix is wonderful with charcoal and pastel. You know, I haven't, and I've not used it with those. I should try it. Well, I have with pastel, but not with charcoal. I'll have to try that. Sea turtle and watercolor pencils, 100%, Erica said. Watercolor pencil Sherry asked for the Patreon one. Melody said, oh, either graphite or water-soluble graphite for me. So what I'll probably do is whatever we do, like I'll do the sea turtle, if it looks like more people are asking for watercolor pencil. If I do, whatever one I do it in now, I'm going to do in acrylic because it's kind of a bigger piece I want to do next. And then I'm going to do the opposite medium. I need to get both soon. Water-soluble graphite in and the watercolor pencil. Let's see what everyone else says. Watercolor pencils for artist Robbie. Leo Whitmarsh said sea turtle and Graphitint. Oh, and Graphitint. I need to use those more. Jeff said watercolor pencils. Jessica said either in graphite, but a weird idea, maybe one side black and white, transitioning into color. Oh, I kind of like it. We could do both. My brain is working here. That may be the thing. And now I'm like all excited, like, ooh, I want to start this. That's more creative. Why didn't I think of that? I like it. Sea turtle and watercolor, please. I may do both. I'm really liking the idea of fading from one to and we'll see. I'll Photoshop it and see if I can make it look good. If not, I'll do one and then I'll do the other. But let's see. Jennifer said, I love the idea of a sea turtle in black and white transitioning into colored pencil. Let's see. Paul, whoa, that jumped. Where were you, Paul? Come back. I'm missing a bunch of questions. Let's see if I can get through a couple of these. Paul said, thank you for those encouraging words. I just imagine those 2 weeks of less sleep to perfect the proportions color. Anyway, I'm drinking iced tea now. I feel okay. Well, good. Yeah, that gets easier the more competitions you enter. I mean, it was kind of the same. I felt the same thing more so, I would almost say, with the dog shows. I spent my first dog show, and I had done the practice shows. Everything had gone well with Jessie. We call them fun matches. But when I used to show my Italian Greyhounds, and I remember I put so much work into her, and she's a beautiful dog. I mean, she is very well built. Well, she was when she was young. She's a little old lady now, so not quite the same. But anyway, I expected to win. I mean, why wouldn't I win? This dog is beautiful. I trained her like you wouldn't believe. We got there for the show and she acted like the biggest idiot you have ever seen in the ring. Everything she shouldn't do. She was pulling on the leash, flipping out when the judge came to. I mean, it was quite embarrassing. I'm going to erase a bit here where I'm a little too dark. Let's go ahead and grab, let's see which eraser I want to use. Here's the kneaded eraser. Let's lift some of this up. I want to soften that so it fades as it moves up. But yeah, and that was very disappointing. Well, one, dog shows are expensive, but I also went into it, and I should have known better. I've been doing this with art long enough. I went into it thinking like, obviously my dog's going to win. And I was looking at the other dogs around me going, no, this dog, she's much, much better. She's cleaner on the movement. She does everything. And then she acted like an idiot in the ring. And the judge is like, train your dog. Like, I did train her. I've been training her for months. But anyway, yeah, it takes the fun out of what should be fun. And even with dog shows, that's what they kind of tell you is like, don't go into like expecting to always win because you're not going to. And it really does take the fun out of it. Let's see. Sergi said, I can almost imagine you producing a Greyhound scream of death before starting of the live stream. Even so, it's been half an hour and you didn't have a meltdown. I'm rooting for you. Yeah, I have a feeling it's probably all over my face by now because I keep scratching my nose. But yeah, it's so far as these aren't as bad. These actually don't freak me out nearly as bad. I don't like the mess, but I've learned to put paper towel under where I'm working. So it kind of falls onto that. And we've got this whole dark area back here. I'm just going to scribble some in there. Violet Sky said, that's funny, the Greyhound Scream of Death, that would be me with pastels on my hands. Like, it makes my skin crawl. Like, it drives me crazy. Violet Sky said, I'm glad you have Gibson in the camera shot. How long before he flips over on his back? It shouldn't be too long. I don't know if you can see his head is on the floor, though. Bed fail, Gibson. Wade's all the way in his bed. He's actually rubbing his head on the... His eyes are closed, and he's just rubbing his head all over it right now. Let's see. We call our going to abstract... We are all going to abstract art for you to criticize on the video. Sneak said, you do deserve it. You work hard. Oh, about the house. Thank you. Let's see. I can't wait to try this. Good. Any tips for someone starting graphite or charcoal? And is the technique different for colored pencils? Oh, it's completely, you blend colored pencils different. With charcoal, you can blend with your fingers. Colored pencils don't work that way. Graphite, same thing. So yeah, completely different in the techniques for sure. But tips getting started, just start. Just grab your materials and start. I think we have a tendency to get so worked up over not wanting to mess up. Like, don't, just start. Just go make something ugly. Don't even worry about it looking good. But get a reference photo. That's a big thing. You have a lot of people who are new think that they need to draw from their mind. That's not what a good artist is. Sure, that's how it is on TV, but we all know, well, hopefully you know, anything you see on TV is bull. So that's not how the real world works, whatever it is that they're showing you. So don't go into it thinking I have to draw from my memory. That's not how it works. So definitely get a good reference photo. And whatever reference photo, if you're working in graphite or carbon pencil, charcoal, any of these in black and white, make your reference photo black and white. It makes it so much easier to judge your values. Phyllis said, you deserve a house. Enjoy every bit of it. Thank you. You know, the fun thing is too, so I didn't get, I mean, this is our first house and we're in our 40s. We are late bloomers. But I just appreciate it so much more than I think friends or people I know who got them when they were younger. So it's like, I can't even complain that it took us this long to get to this point. Like, just that I really appreciate every single thing I have. But I also know you can lose everything in an instant too. So hopefully that never happens, but I sure do. Like, it kind of makes you appreciate it even more. Breaking the carbon pencil in here. This is not a good sharpener. I can tell it's not very sharp. Dang it. Yeah, you can tell because it keeps breaking it. So I'm not going to worry about the details in here. I'm just going to kind of scribble in, make it dark. That is a horrible cringy sound. I actually wasn't even aware at how noisy and how horrible some of these sounds were, because for years when I worked, I always had headphones in. I had no idea until somebody had complained about the noise of something or another. They couldn't stand the noise that some pencil made on the paper. Not that I was making, but on their own. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I had to take my headphones off and it was like, wow, that is annoying. It was a certain brown colored pencil that was bugging them. I'm like, I had no idea it did that. Okay. I have a different sharpener. This one is just breaking. If you have this happen where your pencil just keeps breaking and breaking and breaking in that sharpener, there's a very good chance, unless you're working with Prismacolor, it's a very good chance it's the pencil sharpener itself is not sharp enough. You'll end up coming around the edges and turning. There's some, looks like palm trees in the background of this forest. I guess this is a more tropical forest. Which tree is this? So that big one, that's dark. This one's pretty dark too. I'm just gonna block those in. So this is where a charcoal block that was soft enough would have been a better choice. This is taking longer than it would. Like if I had charcoal, like I thought I did when I set this live stream up, I could have just quickly, this would have been so much faster, but I'm having to constantly sharpen my breaking carbon pencil because I don't have what I would prefer. Let's see. Laura said, I'm a new patron. Do you have any video with a white dog in acrylics? I have someone who wants to paint her pooch. I'm a little nervous. Trying to think. Go to, it's Lachri.com. If you scroll down, it'll have the Patreon library. Go there. It'll show you everything I have. Now, I don't think you said in acrylics. I don't think I have one. No, I have the oil over acrylics. It was a white lab poodle mix. That one may be good for you. And even though it's not straight acrylics, that still is going to show you what you need to see with color, with a lot of that. That one I think would be good. Trying trying to think what else I've got in there, but that'll show you everything there. This is just, hold on, I need a different sharpener. This is making a mess. Actually, you know what might work? It may not. I'll give it a try. I've got this X-Acto sharpener. Let's see if that'll work for me. It's one of those crank ones. I just heard it break. Yeah, you're not even working at all for me. I think it's wiggling too much. Hold on. Let's try that one. This is not working. Are you even going in there, or did you completely break inside? It's supposed to clamp down, and then none of it, like I don't have a surface that really does that. No, I need another sharpener. Here's a new one. This is, okay, there's charcoal over my face, but my face is itching, so that's making it to be a challenge. Color or normal? Made in Germany. I think this is a Faber Castell one. And it's not big enough for this, is it? I'm shoving it in anyway, and that's probably a bad choice. Okay, you are useless. Okay, here's a new comb sharpener. If that doesn't work, I have an X-Acto knife, which may be the better choice in this case anyway. Let's see. Whoops, where were we? That sharpener definitely didn't work. Nikki said, sometimes I'm really surprised to see so many people make and sell Disney stuff. Oh, you and me both. And then get mad when somebody says they're not supposed to do that. They make enough money. Doesn't matter. That's not your property. Let's see. Spark said, do professional artists ever request a percentage of the payment prior to work completion? All the time. That is very, very important. If you are doing a commission, never, ever, ever, don't buy the supplies, don't put your pencil to the paper, nothing until you've gotten a deposit. Most artists take a 50% deposit because more often than not, people will hire you, they'll be all excited and always something comes up. Their car breaks down, whatever. And I mean, that sucks for them. But you put in the work. You still need to be paid for your work. And this sounds bad, but their problems aren't your problems. So if they hired you to do something they need to pay you for it. You did the work. You don't just get to say, oh, I have something else that was more important. And I've had it happen to me enough times. So where, they're making their problems your problems, and that now you can't pay your bills because you just spent the last 2 weeks working on their project instead of something else that could have paid. Always take a deposit. Like never, never, never put any work into anything until you've gotten at least 50% is normal. I used to do a smaller deposit, but 50% is pretty average. Hold on, where's my sponge thing? There we go. So yes, it is completely normal. And if somebody has a problem with it, realize they weren't going to pay you anyway. And then the other thing is that deposit helps weed out whether or not somebody was seriously going to pay you. You would not believe how many times somebody will contact you and hire you for something, and then you'll do it and they never had any intention of paying you. That's very common too. People will contact, especially through Facebook seems to be the big one. People will get all excited, yeah, draw this for me, and you do it, and they're like, oh, well, I wasn't actually, I agreed to the price, but I'm not going to pay for it now because reasons. So if you don't want someone to, if you want someone to take you seriously on that, and then you'll have the people that push it back constantly. And here's the thing with the deposit, non-refundable. And that you need to have that, if it's an email, if it's a contract, whatever you need to do, they need to know they are not getting that money back if they change their mind once you've started. Now, if I haven't started, I'll give you your money back. Like if it was just to hold your spot or whatever, yeah, I'll give you that if it's not, if it didn't affect my business. But overall, be aware you need to take that deposit. It is one of the biggest lessons that artists need to learn because and it seems like most people will wait until they get screwed over before they take that seriously. I see that a lot. But you will inevitably, and it'll be someone, like I had a woman who kept buying artwork from me and she bought multiple stuff and then she started commissioning stuff. Lots, I mean, she probably has 6 paintings of mine in her house if she didn't burn them because I made her mad. She didn't like that I called her out on her crazy, that I stopped taking. She got very abusive, but she kept having me do more stuff for her, and then she was like, oh, I can't pay now, but I really want to I want this painting. I'm like, it's fine, I'll hold it for you. Or she wanted one. I'm like, it's fine, I know you, because I'd known her for a couple of years at this point. I'm like, it's fine, I know you, it'll be fine. She didn't end up paying for most of them. And so, but I didn't send the painting to her, so I wasn't really out anything except the deposit. One, I had her pay a deposit. She tried to get that deposit money back or apply it to something else. And I'm like, I can't sell. It was some stupid looking swan thing she wanted. It was not good. But she wanted it. It was custom to her colors, her everything that she wanted. I never liked the design or anything else. But yeah, she ended up getting really, really nasty with me. And even though I thought I could trust her, when she turned out to be she was very mentally unbalanced, but I didn't know that to begin with. For the first couple of years, she hid that very well. So once she started getting more and more unhinged, I would have been out, and she still owed me, I want to say it was just under $1,500 there were smaller paintings she was getting, but there were multiples. But because I hadn't sent them to her, she wasn't, I wasn't really out that much, and they weren't all custom. A lot of them were just paintings she'd see that I had done and she wanted them. So yeah, that one, even though I thought this was someone I could trust because she'd bought things for me before, so she made it appear like she could afford it. Well, it turned out her husband had no idea she was doing this. So yeah, fun times. Always get a deposit, even if you think you can trust and know that person. Let's see. Art with Diamonds and Esky said, Prismacolor seems to have improved a lot. My new set is about the same as my 25-year-old Prismas. That's nice. I don't trust them. Because I'm wondering how often, like, there were times when I just got a good batch. Didn't have any problems with that. And then I'd get replacement pencils and they'd be bad again. So I'm wondering, did they improve? Or did some people just get good batches? I used to go through so many pencils, so I got to, I had a bigger sample size of how bad they had gotten, and it was very hit or miss. You'd have some that were great, and then there were some that weren't. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see if they improved. It actually improved, or if it's a hit or miss. Some people are getting good ones. Spark said, I've just begun following you and also on Patreon. You make me want to keep trying. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Yay, and welcome. Erica said, changed my vote. I like the idea of both as well. For the sea turtle. Leah said, I was late today, but glad you are doing this. My eyes jumped that time. I can't even blame YouTube for that. I have the Derwent tinted charcoal and love them. I have the one that's water soluble. I have their blocks, and I really want to try those. When I was looking for I thought I had more blocks of charcoal pencils. I really wanted to. I saw those, and I was tempted to do those as well. Jana said, I can't talk. Said, probably a silly question, but I don't actually know how. No, I don't know how to know what is softer and harder with charcoal. Smooth, medium, wide stick, narrow stick. I don't know what the narrow stick and wide stick. So different brands will call it different things, but hard is usually going to be a harder, it's like a hard pencil. Your 4H, your 6H, the harder the pencil, it doesn't smudge as much. It's not as soft and it's much lighter, and that's generally going to be the case here. So your soft is generally your darker, like what I wish I had for this stage of the painting or the picture. We'll just save time. But you may have to look up with each individual company what they've got on. They should have somewhere on their website or something that explains what terms they're using, what that means for them. Melody said, what did your husband think of names for the bird? Fries, kiwi, etc. We're still calling her Sushi at this point. He looked up another one. He was just looking up other food names. Bean was kind of cute, but he's still Sushi is still what we've been calling, I said her, him, whatever we end up with, he wants a him. I'd actually prefer a him just because I don't want to deal with egg binding. So we went to a place out in, was it Bedford? And it's called Parrot Treehouse. They don't have any in. They had one of theirs in, one of their pets brought out, so Matt could see the ring neck. His name was Cody. He was really funny. But we got a bunch of toys for Chicken, and I don't know if Matt got any for Nugget, because Nugget has a lot of toys already. I got a bunch of toys for Chicken. He said, another idea is using only white colored pencil on a good black paper showing Inktense values. Yeah, that would actually be a cool, maybe we'll do that for one of these live streams, just white on black paper. Ali said, have you tried Derwent tinted charcoal and extra large charcoal blocks? I have not, but I have some here. I need to. Jennifer said, I'm loving the contrast of light and dark already. So beautiful, just love trees, majestic. Me too. And then Fine Art Studio said, just wanted to thank you. I'm currently working on my second colored pencil commission right now after only doing graphite for years. You've changed my life for the better. Thank you. That is awesome. Caution Artist Supply said, you don't look like you were in your 40s. Because I use cheap cameras, so you can't see all the wrinkles. I'm not dumb. I know you use the cheap cameras. That and I hid it from the sun until this last year. I have a feeling my skin's going to age real quick if I don't start using sunblock. Or I bought a hat and I never put it on. I need to do that when I go outside. Let's see. Do you use a fixative on your pieces? Bought Winsor & Newton one yesterday. Yes, this will need a fixative on it for sure when it's done. Otherwise, it will just keep falling off the paper. I mean, it kind of is going to do that regardless just because of the nature of the medium, but yes, absolutely. Now, like colored pencil, I don't though. Colored pencil doesn't, well, I don't use colored pencils that need it. If you were using like Prismacolor, you want to finish or put a spray on it because that'll help keep the wax bloom from coming back. But other colored pencils don't need it unless I'm working on sanded paper or with powder blender, then I do. Okay, I want that to soften out a bit more, so I'll just switch over to a Q-tip. Not quite as soft as I would like it. Okay, and then we have a bunch down here that I never really filled in as dark as I would like it to go, so this is actually not working. I'm going to switch to a soft tool. This one is really, it's cheap and it's scratchy and it's creating lines and squiggles I don't want. Let's switch. Find my replacements. Oh, here we go. What do we have next? Leah said, this reminds me of my Ansel Adams calendar. Love it. Yeah, I like that look. Let's see, a weird drawing idea that I had, maybe a glowing mushroom in the middle of a dark forest and the topmost portion of it transforms into fireflies. That's a neat idea. Do it. That is a really cool idea. Let's see, Jason said, is supplies included in the 50%? Huh? What were you talking about? In the 50%? I don't know what we... Oh, for the deposits. Well, I mean, that's... You don't charge... I'm trying to rub my face that's itchy and not get charcoal over. I just need to accept that it's going to happen. But you're not charging for your work and then supplies on top of that. Supplies are included in that. So that's what that deposit is going to help cover, is them if they flake out on you. So you don't do plus supplies. That's just, part of whatever your fee is. What is that you're using to blend? So I'm going to switch now. This one is a soft tool. This may pull a little bit more off. This is something cheap that came, I think it was in a Smart Art box or something. But it's kind of like an eyeshadow applicator that I don't know why anyone ever used those to apply eyeshadow with. But that's what that is. And a Q-tip was the other thing. Or a cotton swab if you're not in the US. Art Lady 45 said, sorry for being late. You've answered this. What is that blue thing you're using for spreading the charcoal? Bigger one on the end. It's just like a makeup type brush, but it's not for makeup. It actually is for art. but it's the equivalent of like an eyeshadow applicator. Don't break, don't break, don't break. Ooh, you sharpened nicely. Good job. Will you recommend try with Fiverr as an amateur artist? No. I mean, okay, so here's the thing. Fiverr, yes, you do get professionals on Fiverr, but most people I've known that went to Fiverr were expecting something for just really cheap. Like you don't, maybe that's changed, but last I knew, people weren't going there looking for quality. So it's not, I mean, maybe, I guess you're not out anything to try, but it doesn't seem like it would be the, oh, that's way better. Like it would be the, like, best option for getting sales. Oh, this is so much better. Soft tools, you're great for everything. So we've got to get a lot of darker areas down here. We've got some trees, so I can start pulling these shadows up, these softer ones up a bit more. Oops, it's a little too dark, but that's okay. Being careful not to do that, like what I was just doing there. I was getting too much of the same type of like brush stroke, and so I was getting, was losing the variation that I need. So one of the things I can start doing too is pulling in some of these branches. No, you're too dark. What else do I have? Let's see which I like better. I've also got these vine sticks of charcoal from Winsor & Newton. Let's see how dark those are. Yeah, these ones are hard, so they're not going to be as dark, which works for these distant branches that I want. Kind of scratchy there, but that's good for these little ones. And I'll soften this by putting some leaves back over some of this too, where I need to darken a lot up. And then in here, we just have a ton of branches that kind of are going to stick out. This is going to look weird right now, but we're going to attach leaves all over in here. Carol Green said, I have the Derwent tinted charcoal and it's horrible. The sound it makes while drawing with it made my nerves on edge. See, now, oh, but they have the pencils too. I have the blocks, so I would have used it. I am going to use it like a watercolor pans, like panned watercolor sets. Let's see. Sean said, I'm about to do charcoal portrait of someone. So when do you get the final payment? Could I show her a picture of my final drawing and get her to mail me final payment at the same time? Yeah, I show her on the picture, and when they approve it, then that is the final payment is due at the time that that's done. And if they, for whatever reason, are like, oh, something came up, I don't have the money, and I mean, I want to be understanding with people as much as possible, but you've got to, I can't tell you how many times I've had people just pulling my chain. No, that's not the right one. Essentially screw me over. They've just kept dragging it on, and eventually it just disappeared and never answered messages. One of the ones, and it's funny, it actually worked out well for me because I got to keep it. Well, now it went to a vet that is closed, so I don't even know who has that painting now. But I did a graphite piece of this girl. She wanted me to do her Italian Greyhound. And it was the story that I tell you guys often is my night and day difference of this is what happens when you start spending more time. This was her dog, was the one that I spent so much more time. I still charged her. It was $50. $50. And she couldn't pay it. Couldn't come up with it. And this was a phenomenal, phenomenal portrait. I mean, very realistic. She was so excited. She loved it. Didn't have money. And I don't think she ever intended to. I don't know what she was doing there, but she just never had it. Kept, well, I'll have the money this day. I'll have the money this day. And this just went on for months until it was like, okay, if you don't have it by this day, it's mine. This now belongs to me. I can sell it. I can make prints. I can do what I want. I ended up trading it to a vet for work on my dogs, but dental work in Spain. But Yeah, she just kept going on and on and on. And so I think with me, when you have people that kind of take advantage of you like that so many times, you get to where you're a little less sympathetic. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but you get a little jaded when people keep doing, when you have stuff like that happen again and again and again, and then you realize, oh, okay, I need to just be harsh. So yes, at the time, when you make your contract, they give you their 50% deposit. And that is before you ever do any artwork. You tell them when you plan to have that done. And what I would recommend is whatever date, let's say you think it'll take you 2 weeks, you tell her it will take you 3 weeks, or him, whoever ordered. You're going to then hopefully get it done in 2 weeks. But that way, if something happens and it takes a little longer, always overshoot, tell them longer than what you think it will really take you. And it's due when it's done, but like I said, if you're done early, then that's fine. They don't have to pay for the 3 week until that 3 weeks, because they've got a plan for that. Whatever date you told them it would be done is when they need to pay you. But if they want to pay early and have you ship it sooner, great. Do not ship anything for any reason until you've been paid, ever. Paid in full. But yeah, that's typically what's done, is that they pay the remaining balance, and then you go ahead and ship it to them. Ship nothing till you've been paid in full. Ever, ever, ever. No matter what excuse they give you, you will not get paid. Let's see. Kylie said, oh, ignore my comment about the makeup brush. Oh, that jumped. I'm missing a bunch here. Hold on. I'm going to scroll back up and figure out where we were. Let's see. Art Freak said, question, if you want to mix graphite and charcoal, which first should go on the paper? Charcoal doesn't stick really well to graphite. It just doesn't. Graphite is too slick for it, but sometimes that gives you a cool effect. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Experiment and see what works best for the look you're going for. Miranda said, have you used Art Again black paper? It's by Strathmore. I don't know if I have that one or not. I'm not sure. Maya said, as a major art supplies hoarder, pencil, crayons, acrylics, oils, you name it, I need to know, do art supplies spoil over time, or are my paints going to be rotten in a year or two? Oh no, I've not. The only thing I've ever had happen is, and this was with the Liquitex Basics, some of them will get like chunky. They thin with water and they're fine though. Like it doesn't ruin anything. It just gives me a little bit more work that I have to do to make them work well, which, I mean, I would rather not do extra work, but that's really all I've seen. They should be fine as long as they're stored indoors, nice, not being kept in the hot trunk of your car. That would be an issue, but no, you should be fine. I have stuff that I have paints here that I bought about 20 years ago and they're fine. Hard to get the lid off sometimes, but they're fine. Paul said, I still love oil paint. I may try acrylic now. I'm going to master it so I'll get things done more quickly and maybe join a contest soon with my vision and judge's art background. Phyllis said, I just saw Gibson move when you walked by him. Didn't know he could do that. Well, there we go. He laid like a normal dog for a while, and now he's on his back. It's funnier in person. It doesn't look as weird from your angle, but his mouth's hanging open and legs. That is a classy animal. Let's see. Nick said from Katura, she wants to know, do you have any tips for people who only paint portraits and who want to learn how to paint landscapes? Love your videos, by the way. Thanks. Yes, just do it. Just do it. Pick up a paintbrush and draw it. And you have to remember, I mean, if you've learned portraits, this isn't going, I mean, okay, it is a somewhat different skill set, but this isn't going to be that hard for you if you're able to do portraits. But you just need to get a reference photo and break it down just like you do on your other painting and copy what you see. My big tip though, paint from whatever is farthest back and work your way forward. That to me is always easier. And be aware too, when you're trying to create depth, don't try to put the same amount of detail far off in the distance as you put in the foreground, so that will help you keep that depth. The other thing is a trick to get a bit more perspective is, if you're using colors, use yellows more in your foreground and blues and purples in your backgrounds. Warm things up as you move forward. That helps to give, and that's not always going to fit the painting you're doing, but that's one of those things that typically will give you a nice bit of depth in the piece. So now that I've got some of these darks in, it's easier for me to see where I really want to get some variation. You can see I'm moving this so that I get different textures in there. And I'll come back through with the actual blocks and pencils too. You've got to get that really dark in there. And then areas where I've just gone a bit too dark, like here, where did I put my eraser? Here we go. We can soften these where we want to. Let's form that a bit better. Don't want it to be too harsh as we move up on a few of these. Okay, now we can start putting in some of these fun details. Oh, that just jumped. Let's scroll back up. Where were we? Rhonda said, if you sell a painting, are you allowed to make prints, or do they own the right for you not to make prints? Good question. Now, let's say it's a commission. If I paint somebody's kid, I own the rights to make prints, but I'm not going to make prints because it's somebody's kid unless I talk to them and was like, hey, I'm going to make prints of this. So, or let's say a dog, an Italian Greyhound. I'll let the buyers know I will be making prints, but legally you have all rights there. Now, it's weird. It gets a little different if they provided you with the reference photo. So you want to make sure you talk about that beforehand. But let's say I painted some surreal thing that my own reference photos and all of that. I have full rights for making prints. They have zero rights. The buyer does not have any rights under any circumstance unless you, well, I guess not under any, there's circumstance, unless you clearly gave them permission. They have no rights to make any sort of prints of your artwork, even if it was their reference photo. I had this issue with a woman who ended up being, she was actually friends with a kind of imbalanced lady. She had issues too. She actually really made me mad with this one. She had hired me to paint her dog, gave me the reference photo, had me make a lot of changes. I mean, they were obvious changes to this reference photo. And she then gave permission for somebody overseas to, I think in Germany, to have a tattoo done of it. So the tattoo artist just got credit for my work, and they're sharing it with the tattoo person's thing, and no credit to me as the artist. And I contacted, what do you want me to do? She can't take it off her arm. I'm not being unreasonable. I'm telling you, you don't have rights to give somebody else rights to use my artwork like that. And I would have given permission. Oh my gosh, my nose itches, but I can't use my hands. I would have given permission, but I would have required that they give me credit. That tattoo artist was taking credit for my work. Yeah, they tattooed it. They didn't have rights to. And that one of the funny things with tattoo artists, they are really weird about people copying their work, yet they do it all the time. Like someone brings a photo and they're like, oh yeah, I can do that. It's very, very common, which is so funny for how protective they are of their own work. But yeah, that artist should have contacted me. And technically, if I wanted to push legal action, I could have. Even though they're overseas, there's certain laws when it comes to copyright that, I forget where they were, it would have mattered. I could have gone after him for it. He did not have rights to do that. And it really made me mad in that case, because this woman was like, well, it was my photo. He worked for my photo. No, he didn't. He worked for my artwork. The dog has a freaking bow on it that I painted in because you requested it, but that wasn't in your photo. The highlights from my artwork, like, you think I can't tell the difference? But anyway, that one really made me mad just because of the way she handled it and acted like I was crazy for telling her, like, hey, can you not give people, like, they need to give me credit for that. They can't just use my my artwork like that. So see how this one's really light compared to that? It's because it's a hard charcoal. But this is that vine. But yeah, anyway, if you painted it, you're the one with the rights. If it was your reference photo, you took their reference photo, now they have rights to that reference photo, and you need to be clear if you plan to make prints or not. Like, I let people know when I do commissions, I will be making a YouTube video out of it. That it isn't even an option for me not to. If you don't want a YouTube video made out of this painting, then I'm not the artist for you. So, like, you can make your own terms like that. You just need to make sure it's clear and it's in writing and all of that stuff. I mean, in my case, most people they think that's cool to have a video of their painting, but you still want to make sure they know that. But yeah, you hold copyright. So any number of my paintings that I've sold the original to, where it was just my design, my everything, I still make prints of all of that. They have no say in that. The buyer never would. And if they wanted say, and they wanted to make prints, instead of paying maybe $1,200 for a painting, they're going to be paying closer to $10,000 or more, because now they're making a profit if they're making prints off my design my work. They're buying the royalties, and the royalties are going to cost them a lot of money. No one's ever done that for me, but anyway. Now, I do work with companies where they just pay me a royalty when something sells, and that's different. That's a contract I have with that company, so there's that. But they don't own all rights to it either. Like, I still make my own prints, and that's what I do with my contracts. Let's see. Danielle said, can I use my initials as my logo for my art business, even if the name of my business is my last name plus art? Absolutely. Veek said, is the principle with fixatives to bind looser media to the paper so it doesn't flake off? Yes, pretty much, because it will just fall off and smudge. Which kind of media and which papers? Anytime if I'm using something that's chalky or powdery, that's a pretty set thing. Graphite, charcoal, pastels. Those are the ones that I'm going to, or if I'm using powder blender and colored pencils on a sanded paper, because that makes it chalky. Lynn, where were we? Lynn said, I'm taking commissions. What are your thoughts on progressive payment schedules, i.e. 50% deposit, 30% at first review, and remit? You can do that. You can get as crazy as you want. The goal is just to protect yourself so that you're not screwed over when someone's like, nah, I'm not going to pay for that. Or, now I will say, if somebody was ever just not happy with what I did, I'm going to be realistic. Why are they not happy? Is there a reason? Did I do a bad job? If that were to ever happen, well, it wouldn't happen. People know what they're hiring me to do, and I'm very clear about what they're getting. But if that happens and I feel like it just didn't come out like I wanted, now that could happen. If I just wasn't happy with it, I'm not going to charge them for it. And if they told me that they weren't happy with my work, again, I'll give them their deposit back. If it was an actual case where I felt somehow, whether the reference photo didn't work out, things just didn't work out as I wanted, in that case, I would give it to them back. Jason said, I bought a 24 set of Inktense pencils. Should I buy the 24 set of blocks, or can I buy a 12 set? I think you'd be okay with the 12 set, but do get the additional white block. Make sure you get that one. That is a must-have as far as I'm concerned. Jason said, it's about respect for the intellectual property. Yes. Cavium said, I love my paint puck, but after a while, when it accumulates paint between the crevices, know any ways to clean the hard spots. I just soak it in hot water, and then you can take another brush and just kind of scrub it around. It's something cheap that I don't care if I damage, just to scribble that out, or scribble it out, just to scrub that out. Scribble is what I'm doing. Scrubbing is what you would be doing. See, I'm starting to get these darker branches back here. And I'm leaving this kind of streaky so I get that feel of the tree trunk. Let's see. Sherry said, my friend asked me to do a pastel drawing of a copyrighted photo posted on Facebook. Am I allowed to use it as is? If I change some aspect of the original photo, can I use it then? No, it's not yours. You have no rights to that. You have no rights whether you change 30%, 50%, 90%. It's not yours. You can't do that. And I appreciate that you're asking this. You can't, and this is a misunderstanding with a lot of artists, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. We actually talked to a copyright lawyer about that too, and they're like, I don't even know where that came from. That's never been true. There's never been a time where you could just change some of the photo. If it is not your photo, if it's copyrighted and you don't have rights to it, no, you can't. So, yeah, that's, no, is the answer to that. And it's a good question because it comes up a lot. And the problem too, buyers have a tendency not to understand that. Well, you can do it for me. I mean, okay, if no one else sees it, sure. Technically, no one's going to know. So how are they going to come after you if they don't know? But you can't post it online. You can't, is it worth it? You get some kind of hangy things off this guy. It looks like torn bark. Kylie said, at the moment I have quite a few commissions. Great, right? But I miss making my own art. Would it be crazy to reject a commission? No, not at all. What I would do too, so I don't even do commissions anymore. I don't have time to do that and plan out lessons and do, it doesn't work. So it's rare that I take a commission. Normally, this was a tree. Let's give him some treeness. Normally now, if I do commissions like friends, or I'll do trades because I want, when I did the shiplap I traded shiplap on my wall to paint my neighbor's dog. So stuff like that. But normally, no, I don't. A lot of artists look forward to the day that they don't have to take commissions. I mean, commissions are great because whatever gets you paid to be able to paint and draw all day, I think that's awesome. But it's also soul crushing if you're not doing also your own stuff. And so try to mix your own in, and maybe you have a schedule where one week you'll do a commission and the next week is something for you, something of your own design. Mixing that up is a very good thing. And I don't even think you have to turn down a commission, well, unless you're really full. I think that you need to be fitting your own in and have them timed to where you're getting your own stuff done in between commissions. And that means there's a waiting list for you on your commissions. So that's great. But I think it's very important that you do stuff for your own, because you'll get burnt out like crazy. So many artists get burnt out because of doing nonstop commissions. It was a happy day when I stopped doing those. I mean, it's not that I didn't like doing commissions for people. It's just that it gets to the point where it's like, but I want to do my own stuff. I want to do something that I want to paint. So I don't think there's anything wrong with turning it down. But if commissions is how you're making your money, how you're making grammar. I'm an expert. But if that's how you're making your money, then you're, turning it down is maybe not the right option, but fitting your own stuff in between and having a waiting list. Let's see. Itch on my head. Trying not to get charcoal on my hair. Where were we? If something is about the commission bothers you, is it okay to reject it without explaining to yourself, or should you outline all the things? If something bothers you about the commission, then it's probably you as an artist knows you can't pull that off. Like, it's not going to come out right. Maybe the wedding dress is overexposed. Maybe the people are not, it's just not a good photo. It's not a flattering photo. And so maybe that's not what you want. Like, if it's not something you want on in your gallery, in your portfolio, then yeah, I think it's okay to turn that down. If there's something you don't like about it, I don't see why you would have to, because I've had a few where it was like, this is the most unflattering photo I have ever seen of two people in my life. I'm not doing that. Luckily, I wasn't really taking commissions anymore anyway, but it's like, no, I'm not. It's going to look like I did something wrong because it's just not a flattering photo. But I don't want to tell people that either, because I don't want to hurt their feelings, because they may think it's the best photo in the history of photos. I'm holding this sideways to get some of these lighter branches in there. So I think maybe make it, because realistically they're going to want to know why. But if it's somebody that you don't care if you get business from in the future, just tell them you're backed up, you don't have time. I mean, you can make up an excuse, because they are going to want to know why. Trying to think of what would be like tactful ways to tell somebody. And I guess it depends on what the reason is, if you can be safely honest without hurting someone's feelings. But one of the things that I tell people a lot of the time is that a cute photo or a pretty photo doesn't always make for a great painting. And it doesn't translate well into art. And that was always a good excuse when it was a bad photo. And generally in that case, it was because someone had a photo of a dog and it just wasn't a good, like, the dog was probably cute. It wasn't a good photo of the dog. And I've seen that with people where I'm like, you probably don't look like that in real life. I'm not sure why you want that as trust me, you're not going to be happy with me painting that. So I'm not going to take the job and have them know that they're probably not going to be happy with that result. But yeah, most likely they're gonna ask you why. So you've got to figure out what you want to tell them. I would imagine, tactfully. Patty said, I always have some baby wipes or a wet washcloth nearby to wash my hands after using charcoal. Avoids leaving fingerprints all over. Yeah, I've got it right next to me now. Art Freak said, question, I'm currently doing a commission portrait and I'm having a hard time with some parts. Is it ethical to trace my reference photo? Why wouldn't it be? So this is a weird, it gets into that typical thing where it's kind of like people who think you need to draw from your memory. It's not how art works. People have been tracing and using projector type tools for hundreds of years. The old masters used them. No, they didn't. I'm always going to have something. No, they didn't. That wasn't true. Whatever. Do what you want, what makes you happy. But what usually is happening, the people who are anti-tracing something are generally not, they don't understand how tracing works. So let's say my neighbor can't draw. Sweet girl, can't draw. She, that doesn't mean she couldn't learn to draw. It means right now she can't draw. So if I drew something for her and had her paint it, it's not going to come out good because she can't draw. So if you draw, having something traced isn't an instant win button. And that's something that a lot of people misunderstand. You still have to know how to, like, it just, for me, it just saves time, but it will also improve your drawing skills. So there is a bonus to doing that. There's just kind of like a weird palm leaf going that way. I'm just making crap up right now with the direction of some of these lower leaves. But you have, for someone who can draw, it just saves us time. If you've got the rest of the portrait drawn out and you're just having trouble with it, you probably could get it out on your own. How much time do you want to spend on that? But this is the other thing. A very well-known artist, an airbrush artist, back, God, this would have been like 20 years ago, that he told us this. Noah was his name. And somebody asked him about using a projector. And he goes, if somebody pays me $5,000 to paint their kid, it better look like their kid. There were swear words involved. But he's like, it better look like their kid. There's nothing wrong with making sure your stuff is more accurate that way. I don't think the goal is that you have to trace everything. But if you're at a place where you're struggling to get things accurate, then tracing can help you to see things correctly so that you do start drawing things more accurately. That gets easier. For those of us who are already at that stage where we can draw, tracing just saves us time, but it doesn't make you instantly a good art. It's not like, there's no way to cheat in art. There's nothing unethical in art. And I'll have people go on, and I'm going to get thumbs downs for this from the people. It's always people who watch later on. They get mad when I talk about this. They want to believe that all of the artists are, I'm just kind of throwing in some other little details down here that aren't there, little palm fronds going by. But they want to believe that because they freehand something, everyone has to do it, and that you're not talented if you don't. They can believe whatever they want. It makes no difference to me how you want to do your art. I'm going to do my art how I want. It's art. There's no rule other than, make sure you're using archival material and Lightfast stuff, but there's no rule that you only can do art a certain way. At what point do you draw the line? I've seen people that said you shouldn't ever use an eraser. That was cheating. What? What? You should just, whatever lines you have, that's what you have. You will have people make up these crazy rules for themselves. Fine. If you want to live like that, fine. I don't. Art is not, it doesn't have rules. You create however you want. I've seen an artist, they would go through, they would take a photo. They took the photo themselves. They take a photo and then go over it and make a few embellishments with painting or with paint on top, and they were beautiful. He's not lying. Those are two different forms of art he combined. He combined photography and he combined the art. It doesn't mean he cheated because he used a photo in the art. That was his art. That was his style. There's nothing wrong with how anyone wants to make their art. You do it how you like, and anybody who's telling you you're doing it wrong, again, unless it comes to being archival so that work is going to fade and someone just paid money for something that's not going to last. Besides that, however you want to make it, there's nothing wrong with it. There's no ethics involved. It's not, people do the whole, it's cheating. Yet there are people who probably aren't making a living as an artist anyway. They don't understand how the art world works. They don't understand how art works. They think that that's like an instant win. It's not. Like I said, I can trace things out or draw things out for my neighbor who can't draw, give her a paintbrush. It's not going to look like, it's not going to be good because she doesn't know how to draw. So it's not like this instant win button. I think a lot of people just do not understand what painting or what tracing can and can't do for you. But no, the short of that story is there's nothing wrong with doing that. If tracing is what gets you to a great end result, then trace. That's fine. And it honestly helps you to learn to freehand on your own because it starts forcing your brain to see things accurate. Our brains have a tendency to look at things and go, I know what a tree looks like. I don't need that reference photo. When you trace something, you're forcing your brain, no, that's not what the tree looked like. Trace it, see how it forms, see how the leaves are bunching together, like get a better feel for that. So do whatever you need to make the best art. I don't care what tools you use. You want to use a projector, you want to freehand, you want to use tracing and transfer paper, whatever methods that you want to use that get you to a good end result, that good painting is what matters. And it's funny because the people who will go on, well, that's cheat, it's lying to the seller. Seller didn't ask me, do I need to tell the seller every tool that I use? The seller doesn't care. The buyer doesn't care. The buyer just wants a good painting. They don't care how I got to that end result. They care that I did it. They care that I painted it, and they can see me paint it in my video. So it's not like I just printed it and told them it was a painting. Where is my eraser? So yes, trace away. There's nothing wrong with that. And you will always, no matter what, this is the thing, no matter what techniques, no matter what tools you choose to use, you're going to have somebody tell you it's wrong. So it doesn't matter. Someone's going to tell you an eraser is wrong. Somebody is going to tell you that tracing is wrong. Someone's going to tell you that colored pencil isn't real art, that acrylics aren't real art. That there's always going to be people out there who think that their way is the only way. Ignore them. They don't matter. Starting to get another texture in here, and I'm just using my kneaded eraser, and I'll kind of bunch it up and change that around every so often so I get some different textures. I actually want to build this up a bit more here. Let's pull that down. We can do some detailing with our erasers in just a moment. But I want to get some more darks. Oh, I'm missing this whole dark area up here. Let's work on that for a bit. And that's scrolled. Go back up. There we go. D. Lynn Creative Art said, Lisa, I really like this look, but wow, what a fun, beautiful mess. Will this be on Patreon? Also, what would you seal charcoal with, if at all? I use usually a spray by Krylon, but somebody else was saying Spectrafix works well. It won't be on Patreon because it's going to be finished. Like this is the finish. I mean, I'm just doing the detail stuff now, but that's, you know, this is a start to finish one here. So this one won't be on Patreon. Amy said, charcoal on your fingers doesn't bother you like pastels? Not nearly as much. I don't love it, but it doesn't freak me out like pastels do. It's not as chalky. I still don't like it though. Caution Artist Supply said, I'm trying to set up a price list for commissions. I work in a lot of different mediums like you do. How would you charge in regards to medium and size? So for me, it's based on how long something is going to take me. Colored pencil is my most expensive medium. And a lot of people would think, well, an oil painting should cost more. I can do an oil painting in no time. Colored pen, same thing in colored pencil. Let's say I want an 18 by 24 in colored pencil and an 18 by 24 in oils. The oils I can have done in, I don't know, a week. Colored pencil are going to take probably more than twice that. So, especially that size. No, I'm going to charge a lot more for the mediums that take me, you know, you got to pay for my time. So those are going to cost more. And they still sell because some people will think, well, they won't sell. People aren't going to pay more for colored pencils. They do. It's about getting that audience, getting the right thing in front of the right audience. They do sell. So, I, on mine, base it on size and by medium. So like I said, colored pencils I'm going to charge quite okay, how far down does this come? Let's kind of dot this. I want you to come about this whole section here, and then you'll kind of fade out. Okay. Let's see how dark I can get. Which one was it that wasn't? I think this one's not very dark. Let me see. Yeah, we can block these in. So it'd be much better with a softer charcoal. But yeah, so I go by how long I know certain sizes approximately will take. Now, I don't really do a whole lot. Like a really elaborate background I might charge a little bit extra for, so I have to approve it before. But those prices give you a general idea. If it's like, let's say a brindle dog is going to take me a little bit more work than a fawn colored dog because of the stripes. I'm not going to charge more for that. Like that just kind of all balances out. That one's fine. But I do break it down by medium. Like that would get too complicated. Well, this breed costs this much. This color costs this much. But I do break it down by medium and size and how many subjects per. So if it's like 2 dogs in one painting, that's obviously going to cost more. And so I break it down for one more subject. It costs this much more. For this many more subjects, it costs this much more. I may do another charcoal one. This is actually fun, but I need to buy myself some proper materials. This paper is actually not bad. I'm liking it more than I thought I would. So now that I got that texture in there, let's get this down here. Lynn said, wait, was that where we were? Lynn said, I have asked permission to paint draw others' pictures for presentations only to show examples of my work, not to sell. Do you see any issues there? No, and I've had some artists or some like photographers will give me permission and some won't. Usually they do. Most photographers actually gave me permission to sell too. They were like fine with me using it for anything. Some were like, if you make a YouTube video, I don't want ads on the video, like you make zero profit from that. Would have made more sense if he was like, I want a percentage of that profit, but that was years ago. So I chose in that case, like it was a cheetah I really liked. I chose not to use it. It didn't fit what my use for, but if they'll give it to you just for like, let you use the work so you can use it as a sample of your artwork, that's totally fine. But yeah, and I have had people tell me, give me permission in that sense, or just for that. Sean said, interestingly, Banksy just did a drawing of a real superhero of a nurse in a cape. In a basket was the superheroes like Spider-Man. Would that be copyright infraction? So that's a little bit different because he's essentially making a parody of the real, like it's not the real thing. He's not just like, here's Spider-Man. He's using the way that he did it. He's likely getting away with fair use because it's more of not a joke. Usually if you go where you're kind of making fun of something, that sort of parody is easier with fair use. I'm not sure in his case. I'm not a lawyer, but a lot of times you'll see people do things and they're like, how can they do it? It's fair use because it's a parody. And I don't know if that's, how he's doing it. It doesn't sound like a parody, but that is going to make a difference too. This does not have a nice shape. This is like a weird round. We've got another dark one over here. I don't see how this is rounded off. I need to get the little ones that are kind of hanging down. This is too like, it is not shaped nicely. I'm just gonna pull that up and then we'll start getting some of these darker ones in. They're kind of bigger. Man, I'm really regretting not having purchased charcoals lately. I am definitely gonna need to do some shopping. And I'm not trying to make this exact to the photo. I'm just kind of, basing it loosely on where the lights and darks are. Yeah, the laws get weird when you get into certain fair use things on what you can use it for, but that sounds like a little bit of a different situation than just copying somebody's art or character. Again, it depends on how they're using it. Let's see. Could you do a graphite live tutorial, please, as your live streams are really helpful and instructive? Thank you. Yes, I do need to do one. I haven't done a graphite one in a really long time. Mouse Potato said, my personal knowledge of commissions, if they bother me, I turn them down. It's your 8th sense that they will be unhappy with, and most likely you will get a bad rep. Say, I'm booked for now. Yeah, honestly, that works. Jason said, Lisa, are you changing the focus of shape closer you get closer to the bottom of the picture? Yeah, these are kind of a little bit more out. Well, these are still kind of in focus up here. But yeah, they're a little bit softer. I'm not going to do as much detail as what's in that. I mean, it's a 2-hour stream, so we can only go so far. And I'm unfortunately using kind of crap choices for, because charcoal can go a lot faster than what I'm doing. Well, that I'm sitting here talking the whole time. But if I had more of the soft charcoals, this would have saved time if I had in the blocks. I'll get some. Charcoal's really inexpensive too, so like even if I just get it for one live stream, it's still worth doing. Get some branches in there. Got these darker masses, so we'll just scribble some of that in there, these little clumps. And then I keep switching to that harder, the vine one, because it's the hardest that I have, and so my lines come out a lot lighter. Oops, unless I push that hard. We'll do that. Switch over to the sponge. Dan said, on tracing techniques, isn't that why artisans like Da Vinci use grids to help map out the ratio of the models? Yeah, you can use grids. They used to use, camera obscura or whatever. They had lots of tools that they did that with, and there is nothing wrong with that. I don't care how you create good art. I care that you create good art. Whatever means you take to create that good art, I don't care what they are, whatever tools you use. Let's see. For example, explaining to somebody covered in tattoos that I don't feel comfortable drawing them. In that case, I would prefer something like, I reserve the right not to accept. Yeah, or just say in your book, you don't have anything coming up right now. That may be the way to go. Although, why would you not want to draw someone covered in tattoos? That would be like the portrait. I would say Sunroll my way, but I'm not taking commissions. But that would be the portrait that I would be more interested in, because that is interesting looking. A lot of work, but man, that would look really cool. Furian said, I believe that there are people who are born with the ability to draw and paint. I also believe that you can learn this ability with a lot of practice. I don't think anyone's born with the ability to draw or paint. I think that's bull. You have people that will pay more attention and notice and maybe learn faster because they spent more time practicing. But the people you're not born knowing how to do things. That doesn't make sense. You're not even born knowing how to walk. But I mean, these are things you always have to learn. Now, do some people learn faster than others? Absolutely. But it's not, I don't think that it's genetic, other than that you might be genetically, certain people like certain things. Maybe if you want to say, I genetically like vanilla ice cream more than chocolate ice cream. Don't judge. That you could say is genetic. Or, so you may have somebody who's like, oh, well, I liked art from a young age. I spent more time drawing from a young age. Do I need to answer this right now? Hold on one second. Let me make sure there's not anything. Nope. I'll have to come back to that. So there's not. Where was I talking? I got distracted. I think somebody's stuck at an airport right now. I'm almost done. We'll wait to figure out what's going on there. But that's not what. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, no one is born with anything. And I think that's something that you see in movies. Someone's they have this natural gift, and you handed them a violin and they were instantly playing Vivaldi. No, they weren't. That doesn't happen. That's not how it works. Some people will learn faster, but neither were born with this gift to art. I think that's kind of a ridiculous concept, and I think it can be discouraging to people. But no, anyone can learn. Anyone can learn if they're willing to put in the work. Will everyone be good? Meh. Will everyone have? No, I do think that there's something to having a natural eye for balance. Not everyone has that, but that can be taught by using the rule of thirds and such. But there's no one's born with anything like that. They practiced, and they were probably practicing when you weren't looking. So some kids you'll have well, my brother could draw really well and I couldn't. Because he probably was spending a lot more time drawing instead of watching TV or riding his bike, when you weren't paying attention. Anyone who is painting or drawing, they were spending time learning how to paint and draw. It's not something anyone is born with. Oh, and that scrolled. Where was Jana? Thank you, Mary, for the super chat. Oh, a little working out. Fitting now with my whole little calorie counting crap going on. Little working out pair. Thank you. Oh. Okay, where was I? Oh, I am way far. Here we go. Jana said, I saw a critique of a comic artist who... where the rest of your question went. Here we go. So a critique of a comic artist who started trading and his art became obviously worse. Who started trading? Partly due to, to what he was tracing. He was phoning it in. I'm not sure what you're saying there. I'm sorry. Mouse Potato said, are you doing anything for the 4th of July as far as art? Not usually. I usually don't do themed stuff. Very rare. I mean, I painted a bald eagle recently. We could call that 4th of July. Let's see. Kylie said, when using your fingertips to blend, are you not worried about oils on your fingers? I mean, on this one, I'm not selling this. And no, this is kind of a quick little quickie project. But no, and you ideally want to have clean, dry hands. Yes, keeping the oils from your hands off the artwork is the best thing. But sometimes your fingers unfortunately are just the best thing for blending to get certain techniques or to certain looks. So sometimes I break my own little keep your hands off the artwork rule. But yes, it is better if you don't. Got the Tombow Mono Eraser. I can come through and get some of these little guys in there. You can mess with this. Like I can mess with this easily for another couple of hours to make it look more like the photo, especially if I had the charcoal pencils that I wanted, which I will get for next time I do charcoal. This didn't freak me out, so I think I could definitely do this again for a live stream. Let's see, what else do I want to mess with on here? Anything else I mean, it's fairly simple. Yeah, Janet, if you want to write that out again, my brain is not working fast enough to pick up on what you're saying. Christine said, it's so nice having the reference photo shown on your video. Yeah, when I can show it, I will. I don't always have the rights to show it. And if I've got to show my palette, there's that takes up space. So yeah, it's helpful on this one though. I was excited when I was like, hey, I can put this one on there. I'll try to do that more when I'm able to. Let's see. Mouse Potato said, tape works really well for creating bark. Just fold it in half of the length you want it to create the bark lines. Use Scotch tape on my jeans. Lightly tight. Yes. So that's something you can do for I don't have any Scotch tape in here. You can do it with masking tape, not quite the same. But yeah, putting tape, you can make cool designs and pull it off. I do that with colored pencil. You guys have seen me do that before. You get some really cool effects that way. And I don't have any in here right now. You are correct. See, what is your most hated medium other than pastels? Most people hate them, Yeah, pastels, definitely. I'd say charcoal is behind it, but not because I don't think it's pretty. And I like the work that I've created with it when I do more realistic stuff. It's just so messy. I don't like messy things. Gail said, I love Spectra Fix for ceiling pan pastel work. It was tested against other brands by Jason Morgan, and you know how thorough he is. It's non-toxic too. Nice. Art Jitter said, I'm trying to feel confident enough with my art to start selling soon. What would you suggest to start advertising? Also, any advice on a US-based print shop? Thanks in advance. Are you going for G-Clays? I have used G-Clay today and love them, so that's definitely an option for you. And they'll do drop shipment too. So if someone orders, you don't have to put out a bunch of money to get prints if you don't need to. You can just ship and have them, or order it and have them shipped to the buyer if you want to, and that's G-Clay today, and those are nice print. They're more expensive, but they're good. Been really happy with what I've gotten from them. But that's an option. As far as getting started selling your work, social media, start posting regularly, get a following. That's a big deal. Post regularly, and put yourself out there. I haven't looked yet, but usually, let's see, if I post a photo of myself, I will get more of a response, and the more of a response you get, the more that post gets shared with more people, just the way the algorithm works. I will get more of a response if way more than normal. I post about my live streams all the time on Instagram. This one post just went up. It's got so many more comments, so many more everything. And it's a photo of me making a face because, I'm a big baby when it comes to charcoal and such. But that will get you more interaction. You get more interaction. Facebook or Instagram is we'll share this with more people. Versus normally the more professionally edited, here's the reference photo, here's what we're doing, and whatever. Those don't get much reaction. And because I don't get much reaction, they don't get much traction as far as being shared with a lot of people. I'm just creating a little more texture in here. So that, I want to soften some of these out. So that's a big deal, putting yourself out there. And I hear from people all the time, well, I'm not photogenic, I'm not this, I'm not that. I was making a face and it got attention. You don't need to be, brush your hair, wash your hair, try not, we don't need to see if you've got greasy hair because you've been at home for a quarantine. Wash your hair, wash yourself. But no one really, it's not that big of a, like I was afraid initially to put myself out there because I'm like, people are mean, and the school that I came from, that I grew up in, and that was high school, so it was forever ago, but we were mean to each other. All of us were mean to each other. And so you have that, like, people are going to say mean things, and it's not that bad. Like I occasionally get somebody who will make some nasty comment, but normally that's not the case. So if you can put yourself out there, you're going to connect with more people. So it's just a tip for getting you to grow. And people go, I'd grow just fine on my own. But wouldn't you do better if you were putting yourself out there? Like, okay, if you think now's good, how much better could it be? So that's kind of a silly argument. But I mean, if you're happy with where your growth rate is, great. But if you want to grow faster, start getting yourself out there. So yeah, that's kind of a tip for you. The social media side, and I know you asked for selling, but social media can be used for selling, and it's a really good avenue to do that. And you want to be careful with social media that it's not all selling, because then nobody's going to be interested. You want to just, post content. People, maybe it's art tips, maybe it's here's how this would look hanging in somebody's house. I don't know, free stuff, along with your call to action or call to sell, to buy things. So selling on eBay can work, but even with eBay, it's better if you have social media where you can be like, hey, go check out this thing on eBay. Like, you're going to get more traction the more eyes you can get in front of your stuff. No, wait. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I worded that right. Let's see. Nina said, it's so rare that I can see you live since live in Norway. Looking forward to your next art critique. I really want to get your thoughts about one of my paintings. I need to do one soon. We do need to have one. Maybe we'll do that. We'll finish up what are we working on now? The koala on Wednesdays. So I've got 2 or 3 more weeks. I'm not sure how long it'll take us to finish him. And then maybe after that, we'll take a break from painting and do a critique night, and then get back into like the paint-alongs. Roxanne said, can you give me an idea of pricing for a realistic acrylic painting of a gorilla size 20 by 24 on a deep wrap canvas set in a shadow frame? Pricing is tough. Holy crap. No, I haven't seen your work. I have no idea. I don't know what your reputation is, meaning, do you have a following? Your work could be just, like, you can have artist A, artist B. Works are exactly the same. Heck, you can even say that artist B is better than artist A, but artist A put the time into marketing. Artist A put the time into getting a following and getting their work in front of the right person. And artist A can sell for 2, 3, 4, 5, 800 times more than artist B, even if artist B is better. So there's no way I can tell you on that. For me, if I were, let's say I painted 20 by 24 on a deep wrap canvas set in a shadow box frame. I don't even get into the framing aspect of things. But 20 by 24 for me, let's say I've got it depends on what it was. A zebra is 30 inches. That painting I wouldn't let go for less than 2,000, 2,500. I haven't decided yet. It's 30 inches, so it's bigger. But I've got a following. I built a name for myself, and I don't know if you have or not. And I don't say that to be mean. I mean, we all have to go through those steps. So if you haven't, then you're not going to be able to sell for quite as much unless you're able to get yourself in front of the right people. Like, you have to build that name so that people know who you are, so that they'll be willing to spend more. So no, there's not really any way for me to say, oh, I would charge this much. What you can do is, and it's kind of funny. So my first gallery that I was really showing out was called Angels Gallery and the Pomona Arts Colony. They're not there anymore. I can't talk. Pomona Arts Colony is. Angels Gallery is not. But I remember the lady telling me, oh yeah, this painting, I could probably get maybe, I don't know, 125. And she thought she was being generous. I'm like, I wouldn't take less than 500 for it. And it didn't sell until I lowered it to what she told me she knew it could sell for. Because I didn't have a name for myself. It wasn't that the painting wasn't good. That actually, I think I ended up selling that on eBay years later for more, or more than 125, but less than the 500 that I had wanted. I wasn't super realistic with the fact that nobody knew who I was. That didn't mean I wasn't good. At the time, I really wasn't. But it takes time to build a following, to build to where there is a demand for your artwork. Oh my gosh, itchy face is driving me insane. Roxanne said, oh, I got that one. Kylie said, yeah, after my first charcoal portrait today, I need to go buy more charcoal supplies too. I keep wanting to avoid it because of the mess, but the end result is so beautiful with the contrast. Exactly. Did I scroll this? Oh no, I'm like, did I just lose something? My mind apparently. No, I'm with you on that. It's just fun. It's fast. You get really quick, cool results. And if you take even a little bit longer, it's even better. Like I said, this is kind of rushed, and I'm talking a lot, not using quite the supplies I want, but I will definitely I'll probably place an order. go anywhere except in the plant nursery. But I definitely need to get, yes, I'm with you on that. As much as I'm like, oh, it's messy, it's just so nice. Oh, thank you, Mouse Potato, for the super chat. It's a great charcoal piece, Lisa. This looks really cool. I love charcoal art, but really just like the feel with the pastel blocks. Just you. I know what you mean, and thank you so much. Aw. Don't tear up. Not doing it. Almost didn't. Just a little. Where were we? Hold on one second. I'm looking for where we were. I had to scroll. There we go. Elijah said, I do underpaintings for acrylics. So my question is, if you do an underpainting, and if so, you think that there is a difference in using a burnt sienna versus black and white for the underpainting? It can be, because having black and white, I mean, you've got a grayish tone that's showing under the color, and that is going to shift what that color looks like versus sepia tones. Sepia tones are typically going to give you a warmer look. I normally prefer the sepia tones, but it depends on what it is that I'm painting. Sometimes it would, if I'm going for cooler tones, I'll usually go ahead and go with black and white. If I want a warmer glow under, then I typically go with the sepia. But it will adjust what that outcome is. I mean, just keep glazing and layering until it looks how you want either way. But yeah, it does make a difference. Mary said, I really enjoy these live chat sessions. Charcoal isn't my favorite medium, but I will learn something new every time I watch you. Yay. Gail said, I also put my Spectrafix high quality I can't talk. Flare Sol. I need to get one of those fine mist spray bottle, and I never have spits or droplets. I spray 3 to 4 layers, blow drying in between each pass. You guys keep telling me about that. I need to get that mister. Flaresol Fine Art. Do I have something to write on over here? No. I think I'll remember because you guys have mentioned it enough. Let's see. Art and Diamonds with Esky said, I'd love to see you do more charcoal, especially a wolf or a dog with Derwent tinted charcoal pencils. Do I have those? I don't know if I have those. Jason said, I think that you have to be able to hear the music instruments. I have tried the violin and it's hard because I can't hear the tones correctly. Oh no, you're definitely true. And so here's the thing with violin, and that maybe isn't the best example, because yeah, you can be, some people, you can learn to play the violin and make it sound pretty, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be as good as the next person who learned to play the violin. But you both had to learn to play. You weren't born with being able to play, if that makes sense. So I guess maybe I didn't make my point as well, because that's actually a very good point. Some people just have an ear for music, kind of like what I was saying. I think that would be kind of comparable to some people have a natural eye for balance with artwork. You can learn to follow the rules. You can learn to like do the rule of thirds so that you can get a balance, even though you don't have a natural eye for it. Whereas with violin, kind of that same thing. Yeah, some people are going to have a natural ear for it, but you still have to learn to play the notes. You still have to do the muscle memory and practice and practice and practice and practice. Keep practicing. But even if somebody doesn't have a natural ear for it, yes, they can still learn the rules, because I mean, music is very like math involved, really. So you can still learn where to put your fingers, and you can still learn to read music. Does that mean everyone is going to become the next Vivaldi and amazing composer? No. Some people are going to have a more natural affinity to that, but it still took learning to do it. They weren't just born with it. If that I guess is how I look at that. But that is a good point. Kylie said, P.S. so lovely to actually be able to catch you live. You're normally live at like 3 a.m. my time. Cavian said, when taping down paper, is it possible to get rid of, or at least reduce, the dip that the tape has in the middle? Huh? I'm not sure what you mean. I don't know what you're asking. I'm sorry. Well, this guy said, speaking of pics of yourself, a video of a day in the life of Lisa would be awesome. I need to do one of those. I've been talking about for years doing one. I really do need to. Jenna said, sorry, the artist in question was very obviously using a tracing to make less work for himself, tracing his own previous work and using something for women's faces. I feel like I'm missing part of that story. Sorry. Where did I come up with the name Lachri? It is a combination of my name and my sister Christy. The CHRI is from her, the L and the A from my first name. My mom used to breed Basset Hounds and Shih Tzu. She worked with show breeders. And so her kennel name. We had like 2 Bassets and 2 Shih Tzu. So it wasn't like we were full of dogs. But Lachri was the name that she had used, but then she doesn't breed anymore and she stopped using that like, God, forever ago. And so I kept it because I didn't like my maiden name. I knew I wasn't going to stay with that, but I also didn't like, I knew I'd get married and I didn't want my name to change. Or, you know, the artist name. I wanted something that would stay the same. I could seriously sit and fuss over this for hours and hours. I'm not going to, I'm calling this done, but if you are working on yours, keep going, keep adding details. This is fun. Or, I mean, you can keep it loose and messy like this. Let's see. Sorry for being late to the party, but what brand is the charcoal you're using here? I have all of the supplies that I'm using are listed in the video description. I'm using multiple brands. I don't necessarily claim them to be the best. They just happen to be what I had here that were charcoal. Okay, it is 3:08, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. For signing this, what I would probably do on this one is sign with a my Tombow mono eraser. Remember, when you sign up high enough that if the mat covers it, which it inevitably will cover the artwork a little bit, that your signature is not being covered. And I can go over that a couple more times if I want to really lighten it up, but that is how I would sign mine. So, oh, I just blew dust everywhere. I can go have my meltdown off. Oh, actually, why wait? I've got baby wipes. Oh, I think these are dried out. I think I've had these in the studio too long. Nope, they're working. Oh, so much better. Gail said, thanks for suffering for your art today. Yeah, it's worth it because I love the end result. I love the way that charcoal works. The pastels, the same thing. I love how pastels look, but that one I can't. I tried with the Smart Art box about a year, 2 years ago. And the whole time I finished the project. It was beautiful. It was like a rainbowy sky. I don't know, sunset. Really pretty. Sunrise. I don't know. Really, really pretty. But the whole time I had to keep going and washing my hands because like my skin would just start to crawl. Like it really bothered me. This one didn't bother me as much. I still found myself sitting, like you guys can see that my hands in my lap and I'm holding them like out so my fingers don't touch, because if they're dirty and I touch one finger to another, that freaks me out. Issues. Have a lot of them. Thank you guys so much for joining. I will, that is funny. Susan Scoop said my mom was so relieved when I gave up violin for guitar. She said her ears were thrilled. That's funny. So I so know what you mean. That is it for today. Next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time, we will be continuing on the koala. We're going to start on the branch, see how far we get there, maybe start a little bit on his face. I don't know. We'll just see how long that we go. But thank you guys so much for joining. And I hope if you drew this, tag me and I would love to see what yours look like. I'm going to buy myself some more charcoals. I can't believe I'm saying that. I cannot believe I'm doing that. You know what's really annoying? I get charcoals fairly often. I've gotten a few of them. Actually, some of these came from Smart Art Box. But I'll give them away to friends after I've used them for the video because I'm like, I'm not going to use this. Yeah, I'll be keeping those moving forward. Okay, anyway, thank you again so much. And I will see you guys Wednesday. I am also working on editing that How to Plant an Orchid video. It's really boring and it's really long, but whatever. I'm going with it. That one I'm like halfway done editing. That one's kind of a pain to edit, and the audio is atrocious. You'll see what I mean when I get there. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys next week. That button didn't work. End stream. There we go.